Today, it's all about who will take that final spot into the Aimchess Rapid Grand Final to challenge Magnus Carlsen. Will it be the solid Wesley, or will it be the resilience of Eduardo, or perhaps the genius of Nodirbek? It's going to be a big day of chess. Get the popcorn ready. Day 4 starts now. Hikaru spots it, Fabi spots it.
We see a reaction. Magnus is oh no!
Magnus, mouse slipped.
This is a game-ending move.
He's so good. He's so good at thinking on the fly.
Oh my god, 2 seconds! Oh my god, what an Armageddon!
Oh my goodness, that's a move for you right there.
I think this is the craziest position I think we've seen on the tour this season. He might.
Checkmate. It's Judgment Day in the elimination bracket. 3 players, only 1 will survive, and all roads lead to Magnus Carlsen. And to guide you safely through all the moves in the studio, Grandmaster David Howell, Chincha GM, Simon Williams, and International Master Danny Wrench. David, what a winner final we had. Fantastic chess. What was the big takeaway for you?
Yeah, Tanya, it was simply a feast of chess yesterday. For me, the highlight was the final between Magnus Carlsen and Nodirbek Abdusattorov, but all of the matches were so close, so tense, and there was so much drama.
Fantastic domination there by Magnus Carlsen. Simon, his chess seems to be inspired by a t-shirt.
That's right. I mean, it's something that we all must do, and sometimes we get quite annoyed with our opponents, and we just want to tell them, just resign! And how many times I want to say that to my opponent. So I'm wearing the Just Resign t-shirt today.
I love it. I love it.
Should we do the drink water game every time Simon says just resign?
We might want to do that. 1 water is great for you, so it's good to stay hydrated during the shows. But talking with Magnus today, he mentioned that maybe there was a saga, a sequel, that it could be you need to resign. You need to resign to add to just resign.
And do you know what the most surreal thing was, Danny? I tuned in to watch one of Magnus's streams, and he was wearing this t-shirt. Yeah. And I was like, my God, it's my face on the World Champions t-shirt. I'm like, what is going on? So that was really weird, yeah.
We did have some epic battles in the losers quarterfinal yesterday before it was the Magnus Carlsen show.
You could have put any piece there except for your king. What is this move?
Whoa. He jumps in, he gives up the knight, but he gets Black's key dark square bishop. Is this going to backfire? That's a good
Oh my god, 5 seconds for Lev. He made the last move with just 2 seconds on the clock, and White just take the knight.
Takes knight.
Take
Would he play
the knight.
it?
He does it. Lev shakes his head and makes a move with just 1 second on the clock.
Queen e6 and rook g8.
And that's checkmate on the board. Eduardo reacts, he celebrates. He goes through, he has knocked out Levon Aronian.
The house is coming down, I think.
10 seconds, and it doesn't even matter. You could have an hour on your clock against Magnus in this position. Magnus will still perhaps take it.
Yep. Oh, very nice. Forces the rooks off.
Oh,
Get out of here. Get out of here.
it's just too...
Too good.
Magnus Carlsen shows who's boss with the black pieces, wins round 1. Nodirbek with just 25 seconds on the clock, down 2 pawns now in the position, but he does pick up a key central pawn.
Queen d6?
I think for the
4 seconds. And look at, he reacts. He knows he's made a mistake. He goes back.
first mistake of the game in terms of practical play there. He just lost a pawn with gain of tempo.
Did he
make it?
He didn't. He lost on time.
Yeah, he's losing
right here.
Wow! And Nodirbek loses on the clock. It was an emotional roller coaster. We started on Monday with 8 players. 4 made it through the winners' semi-finals, while Wesley So, Fedosiev, Iturrizaga and Jordan Van Foreest dropped down to the losers' bracket. We also had a fantastic winners' final between Nodirbek Abdusattorov and Magnus Carlsen. Magnus Carlsen is through to the grand final. He gets a rest day. We went on to see Wesley So and Iturrizaga knock out Fabiano Caruana and Levon Aronian. Today we start with Wesley So against Iturrizaga, and the winner plays Nodirbek Abdusattorov. It is a lot on the line. The players who make it through to the losers final also book a spot in Division 1 of the next Champions Chess Tour event. We've seen, Danny, how much this means to Eduardo Iturrizaga. Is this something that's going to be on the back of his mind today?
I think it has to be. We know the whole thing means so much to him, and if you missed that interview, check it out. But getting to the losers final, getting past Wesley So, would probably already be a dream come true, right? It guarantees him another chance at the top division, which is the only direct way to get to Toronto, since we can now say that's where the live final is. So Iturrizaga knows just how much his career has the potential to continue to be on a great trajectory if he can get by Wesley today.
Yeah, I think we all want that fairy tale to come true sometimes, and that really is the fairy tale finish for Eduardo to win a couple of games, a couple of matches, and get to the final. I mean, it was such a moving interview. You've all got to watch it. I mean, I think it nearly had us all in tears here. So it was fantastic. So I just wish him the best of luck today.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for Iturrizaga, though. Wesley So, he's been here so many times before. He's done it before. He's really good in those clutch moments, and it feels like he's turned his tournament around. But whoever it is, whether it's Abdusattorov, So, or Iturrizaga, who qualified to play Magnus, we're in for some great chess.
It is going to be a great chess. Wesley So, one of the hardest players to beat on the circuit, but a very hungry Iturrizaga. There's a lot on the line, not just in Division 1. Division 2 also heats up with so much at stake.
Division 2 delivered one of the most exciting matches of the tournament. American Sam Sevian and Gata Kamsky battled it out with nothing but decisive results in their semi-final showdown. In the end, it was Sevian who came out on top in Armageddon.
Kamsky just not enough time to win the position.
In an interesting turn of events, Amin Tabatabai forfeited his semi-final match against Denis Lazovic, likely due to scheduling conflicts. Sevian and Lazovic are now set to face off in the winners bracket final. In Division 3, Yang Yi Yu defeated Tuan Min Lei 2-0. A one-sided match, Yu punched his ticket to the grand final in style. Big names remain alive in the losers bracket. Will redemption be earned? We're soon to find out.
And to guide us through Division 2 and 3, also in the studio, women grandmaster Keti Satsalashvili. Keti, so many decisive games, fantastic battles, and a lot at stake today in the winners' final.
That's right, Tanya. Once again, on the stake, we have the ticket to the Division 1 for the next event and $10,000 US. And we do have two players in the winners bracket, and this is Denis Lazovic and Sam Sevian. Yesterday, Denis Lazovic had an easy day because his opponent Amin Tabatabai has not shown up. But today, Sam will for sure show up. 22 years old grandmaster from USA. He was once youngest grandmaster of USA at the age of 13 and 10 months.
And there are also matches in the elimination bracket of Division 2. Now, Keti, you mentioned the big $10,000, and of course they qualify for the next Champions Chess Tour event, Division 1. Now, $10K for a player like Magnus might not mean so much, but for these youngsters fighting for that glory, it's a lot of money.
That's right, Tanya. It can be a very good chance for them to maybe get seconds or coaches, or maybe even just plan one whole year of over-the-board tournament and to play and get more and more experience.
Who will shine in Division 2? There is a lot on the line for these young prodigies fighting it out, but not just in Division 2. We've got big names in Division 3 as well.
That's right. We have Yu Yangyi, Chinese Super Grandmaster. He will not play today because he's already in the finals, but we do have a lot of big names like Mamedov or Dominguez, and they will fight now in the losers bracket and will face tomorrow Yu Yangyi. Here we have 5,000 USA dollars first prize, and they are fighting for it.
Wow. Super Grandmasters, they're fighting it out in all these three divisions, and you can catch the action on Chess Dojo's Twitch channel as well as chess.com/events. We will closely be following all the action in Division 1, and it's all a fight to get to that grand final against Magnus Carlsen, one of the players in the race. Eduardo Iturrizaga, he's already won hearts, and it all started with his performance in the plains.
Vamos, rapidito, que no hay incremento. G4, ganando, ganando, ganando. Le va a venir. Cambia, cambia, que no le da tiempo. 5 segundos, 6 segundos. Le saca 2 segundos. Está jugando el pre-move. 5 segundos. Es muy rápido. Carlos, G5. La come. Lo tiene completamente ganado, pero no tiene menos tiempo. F5. Torre 6, 1 segundo para ir. 1 segundo con 9, con 9. Tiene menos tiempo. No, 5. ¡Ha ganado! ¡Ha ganado! ¡Ha ganado! ¡Vamos!
One of the best moments in online chess there. Eduardo Iturrizaga, he has won several open events in the chess world. He also is 6-time national champion in 2 different countries, and that's not something many chess players can boast about. Also an Olympic medalist, but this one just means so much to him, fighting it out against all the big boys of online chess and the chess world. He took down Levon Aronian yesterday. Can he keep up his big run? Simon, what will it take for Iturrizaga to take down Wesley So?
It's going to be tough, right? I mean, Wesley is a phenomenal player. When Wesley's on top form, he's really hard to beat. And I think what Eduardo needs to do is just try to mix things up a little bit, you know, try to complicate the position. I think if he goes into 2 standard kind of positions, Wesley's going to be bit more experienced than him and know what to do. So try to mess it up a little bit, try to attack. And I think his big chance is when they both maybe get shorter time. He proved yesterday he's very good in those real moments where they only have like a minute left. So fingers crossed we have a great match.
I love the little instant replay of all the different celebrations of Iturrizaga right now. If you're not a fan of this guy, like, what is wrong with you at this point, right? But I want to highlight one key point. I agree that Wesley is the favorite in this match, and I've been watching his form turn around. But a 2-game match is very different than 4 games or 6 games. Do not be surprised if Iturrizaga takes this home. The better player often needs more games to flex and to adjust and to show things. And so even if So is objectively the stronger player, Iturrizaga has the momentum. He seems to have the universe. He's got his mom. He's got everything working for him right now. And I am so excited to see this match.
Yeah, it's a 2-game shootout, and on any given day, the underdog can thrive. And we saw Iturrizaga celebrating there. He also turned up, what was it, more than half an hour early for his game, 35 minutes before the game.
Look at the timestamp.
Yeah, this is Iturrizaga, just true professional, fully focused, fully ready, and he wants to fight.
He wants to fight, and the fact that he came so early, the first player to arrive for that losers semi-final, just shows how hungry and ambitious he is for his match against Wesley So today here. Simon, tell us, what are their styles like?
Well, they're universal. I mean, at this level, you have to have a universal style. But Wesley likes traditional openings. He likes E4. He plays this really quite normally and well, extremely well. And I'd say Eduardo's a bit more sort of sideliney. So first sideliney, super aggressive. And when he gets the chance, he just loves attacking. So he's got to like grasp onto that and just go for Wesley's neck. You know, just go straight in, kill. That would be my advice. And make Wesley.
Just resign.
That's right. That's the one.
It's going to be a clash of styles, which means it's going to be a lot of fun for us. Let's take a look at their Aimchess stats. What are their strengths and weaknesses? David, what does this tell us about the fight that's coming up?
It shows that the fight is going to be a tough one. Actually, we see some really impressive stats from both players, but Iturrizaga, we've got to admire his advantage capitalization. That means he wins 92% of games where he has a significant advantage, and he's extremely resourceful too, fighting back 51% of the time, even when he's down on the position. We should mention, however, that Wesley overall is a bit more accurate. Total accuracy there, 91%. That's extremely high. So the longer the games go on, the more matches there are, as Danny said, that might shine through.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting. We saw some similar stats between Nodirbek and Magnus, where Nodirbek even edged Magnus out a little bit in terms of the aim chess overall kind of evaluation. But in total accuracy, you see So has the edge there for a reason. But again, it's 2 games. Anybody could take it, right? And if we get Armageddon, which is kind of what I'm rooting for, I don't know who would prefer White there, because Iturrizaga might want White and a chance to be super aggressive and go for it.
Yeah, I think the first game is going to be key, isn't it? I mean, and we can hear the countdown now. I mean, it's very exciting. But if Eduardo gets off to a good start, dreams can come true.
It is a dream matchup for us, and the players are fighting to get into the grand final, and it's only a best of 2. The players start with 15 minutes, get a 3-second increment with every move they make. 1.5 points is the minimum winning margin, and the winner goes on to the loser's final, booking their spot not only in the Aimchess Rapid Grand Final, but also Division 1 of the next Champions Chess Tour event, while the loser will be eliminated. Wesley So, with the Global Championship trophy behind him, is ready to go. He did win in convincing style in the losers quarterfinal, and look at that, Eduardo Iturrizaga buttoning up his shirt. He's ready for the action, and he means business.
Well, he logged in early. We saw the timestamp, as David was pointing out. Maybe that also showed some nerves. Or maybe it was that he logged in early so that he could go shower and change. Because it does kind of look, his hair's a little wet, right? He's got a new shirt on than he did when he first joined. So perhaps he was joining to make sure he took care of that so that he could get real fresh and focused now.
Yeah, look good, feel good. That's how the saying goes. And it's a Sicilian. And Wesley, small shake of the head there. I'm not sure what that was about. Maybe not expecting the Sicilian, but Simon, you mentioned Iturrizaga. He plays uncompromising chess, uncompromising openings, and this is shaping up nicely. No kind of solid, slow Italians here. And Fianchetto by Wesley.
Although the G3 is a solid attempt by Wesley to maybe take it out of the sharpest lines of the open Sicilian. Sorry, Simon, go ahead.
Yeah, no, agreed. I mean, I think G3 is a wise choice from Wesley. I mean, there's many ways you can play the position, but G3 is a more positional-founded move, and I think the longer the game goes on, I would say the better Wesley's chances get, because he is the more experienced player at the highest of levels. So it's going to be very interesting, though, and I'm happy to see a Sicilian at least.
Interesting approach there by Wesley So with the G3 against the Sicilian. Many ways to play the Sicilian, but Wesley choosing to play his opponent. We've been talking about the aggressive, attacking, chaotic style of Eduardo Iturrizaga. Wesley making sure he doesn't go into any of those crazy, messy Sicilian waters to navigate. And I want to ask you, Danny, here. It's a best of 2, and this is something you've been saying, right? In a longer match, the better player on paper usually would take it away. Best of 2, anything can happen. But having White in the first game, is that perhaps a little bit of an advantage?
I think it definitely is. I think the things we know about chess still hold up, which is having the advantage of the first move, plays out on any level, but especially at the top. And especially seeing what's happening here. Note that Wesley has just as much time than that which he started with, right, including the increment. And Iturrizaga already not necessarily thrown off. Remember, he's a grandmaster of the highest levels, so he knows his openings. But this definitely suggests that he wasn't prepared, because these guys don't take time because their coaches tell them to slow down anymore, right? They've matured past that as players, right? They only take time when they need to. And so already +1 for Wesley in terms of his choice, in terms of the position he might get on the board to avoid the sharpest lines in the open Sicilians.
Yeah, and White's got his king castled. Wesley is still really flexible with his queenside pieces. I'm liking how he's set up here and the opening choice. I would say actually the kind of thought process has changed, especially with the rise of online chess, these kind of long knockout matches, because historically a lot of players would have preferred to choose black first. That way they see how the game unfolds and they know when they have White in the final game how aggressive to be, how to strike. But it feels like these days players really back themselves and they're really confident with White. They just know that if they get that score, then psychologically it's a huge blow.
Yeah.
With just 2 games, there is no margin for error in the elimination bracket. And this big think by Eduardo Iturrizaga after the move that we just saw with Wesley fianchettoing his bishop, does that mean that the opening battle has been won by Wesley, Simon?
I think it's a bit early to say. I mean, this position should be roughly even. It's been played thousands upon thousands of times before. Neither side can really claim an advantage, but I think it shows what having this, we call it the serve, really, like the serve in tennis is the same as having the white pieces. You can kind of dictate the game and you can sort of draw it into the kind of style that you want. That is the real advantage having white. It's not getting an advantage always. It's not getting, it's trying to get the positions you enjoy playing. And I think that's what Wesley has done here. He's getting the position he's going to enjoy playing more than Eduardo. So we can already see Eduardo's playing a little bit slowly here. And, he's got to adjust to this.
But I was going to highlight that I really liked Eduardo's response. We see then Wesley went on the clock. And the reason is Eduardo chose this queen c7 move order for a reason, because it prevented the most common, the most logical path forward, which is with c4. David's already highlighting it. So great point, Simon, and I agree. White's often choosing something that, even if it doesn't get an advantage anymore because of computer prep, it's a position but awesome nod to Eduardo. He chose queen c7. Wesley was then taken aback, took almost 90 seconds on the move before playing b3 because Wesley didn't let him get the most Eduardo didn't let him get the most I can't speak today. The most well-known roads, David.
Yep, the most well-known and maybe the most profitable roads here. If you can get a pawn on c4, it's what we call the Maroczy bind. And this pawn structure, we've seen it numerous times actually throughout the tournament. It has tended to favour white just because you have a bit more space. This is a nice pawn chain, and these two pawns prevent a breakout, or at least an easy breakout for black. That's why the players have been investing a bit of time. They know that this pawn structure is likely, but Eduardo is mulling over his options. Is there a way to stop this? The answer might just be no. If you can't stop this, then you just have to get developed, to get castled. And we'll see that type of hedgehog formation that we've seen several times already. I
agree, but again, he couldn't stop it anyway, right? So he made sure the move order was a little awkward. And when you force the b3 move in these positions, I played some of these Najdorf-Scheveningen kind of structures as black, you're also maybe committing white a little bit, right? Because that bishop doesn't have to fianchetto in a Maroczy bind structure if white just got c4, knight c3. It can go to g5. It can go to e3, right? So b3 is a move that's either a wasted tempo or you commit the bishop to that diagonal. And so, again, these are heavyweight fighters, right? There's footwork going on here, and they're both trying to get a favorable middle game, even if white has an edge objectively.
Yeah, and there we go. Wesley does indeed put the pawn on c4, and Iturrizaga castles very quickly. Yeah, still in the balance. It's just, I think at that point you mentioned, Simon, it's just who's more comfortable. I've seen Iturrizaga play these types of setups before several times. So despite the fact he's spent 3.5 minutes already, I don't think he's that devastated that it's this pawn structure. But yeah, it's just about whether Wesley can slowly squeeze him.
I think we're lucky to have our expert, aren't we, in these positions on the panel. And Tanya, you were giving us some great advice when it was Nodirbek who had a similar structure to this against Magnus yesterday. So you know all the manoeuvres here. And you like the black pieces, right?
I do. You got that one right. I have played this position with black, and I have to say that when you go for these kind of, we call them Taimanov-Paulsen structures with the black pieces, facing the fianchetto that Wesley has done on the king side is not exactly your dream, because what black wants is to place that light squared bishop on b7. You want to target that diagonal. But right now, that's very difficult because there are always tactics on the board with the e-pawn pushing forward, and then the diagonal opens up and you're the one who's in trouble first. So the other question for black here to answer is, where do you want to develop your knight? Now, space is such a big concept in chess. Very often in the Maroczy bind, white's the one with a lot of space. So what you want to do is trade pieces as black. So you've got less pieces to jump around with the little space you've got. So knight c6 would be something that I would be considering, David, as you're pointing out, just trying to get rid of one of the pair of minor pieces. Another approach is obviously you can jump to the d7 square, get the knight to the center point on c5. So even though Wesley's approach is a solid one out of the opening, it's got its own pros here because it doesn't let black achieve what you really want as a Sicilian player.
Great stuff. I'm learning a lot, you see. Yeah. This is brilliant. Masterclass.
You would say you actually would prefer to face the type of approach that Magnus played against Nodirbek yesterday, with the more aggressive developed bishop, with f4, with g4. So as someone who plays these systems, you're actually more comfortable with that attack than you are facing. Okay, that's really good stuff.
And I think that's the reason we're seeing Eduardo use so much of his time. I don't think he was expecting Wesley to go in with this setup that he's chosen for white, and it's a really smart move by Wesley.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and this Maroczy bind with white's pawns on e4, it's always signified by that. Often there's been a trade of one pawns. It can arise from a whole bunch of openings, right, Tanya? The Sicilian, it can arise from the English opening, the Reti. So it's always signified by white having this kind of bind, this grip that we say with those pawns on light squares, and black's just struggles to break out on the light squares. If you can't break out, as we saw yesterday, and actually as we saw with, I think, Aronian losing a game as well earlier in the tournament, then you tend to suffer as black. So that's why Turuzaga now in the tank for 2 minutes. He wants to break the bind, he wants to lash out, but it's not easy.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I gave up playing Sicilians where I allowed my opponent to get the structure. So there's many ways you can try to get a Sicilian position as black, but personally, and again, this is of what kind of taste you like, but I hated playing this kind of position as black because you generally have to be very patient. You generally have to wait for your chance, and it's hard to know when to break. And you know, patience is maybe not my forte. So it's a personal choice, though, Danny. Do we think something like this? What, you know, the kind of opening you like, but mainly.
I also tend to play these systems more for black, like Tanya, and I completely agree with everything she said about it being way more irritating when you're facing the bishop on the long diagonal. But we only have one game to look at, David, so I wanted to maybe bring up the analysis board and help set the tone for the audience, because we all kind of jumped into the fact that this is a bind, assuming everyone knows that, but maybe highlight again the fundamental things going on here, because it's going to tell the story for the rest of the game. E4, C4, what black wants to do with D5 and B5 if they could, and maybe just describe the general nature, because it's going to dictate what we're talking about here for the next 20 moves.
Yeah, exactly. And it is a very much love it or hate it type of setup. Tanya loves it, Simon hates it for black. But essentially, black is going to get a bit stuck. And I'm going to even give black here what they want. I'm going to ignore the fact that e5 is winning here, this rook in the corner. But for example, even if black gets a setup that they would like here, then often you are kind of trapped in your first 2 or 3 ranks. So all of black's pawns, all of black's pieces will be kind of camped out really solidly, ready to jump forward. But you need a break such as d5 or b5 later in order to give your pieces some energy. Meanwhile, if you look at white's army, white has a beautiful knight here, knight on c3 as well. There's a lot more kind of squares around the center, a scope for pieces to move. The white queen has a bunch of squares to maneuver around, the white rooks too, and white can play on both sides of the board. So as Danny mentioned, d5 and b5 are the ways to break the bind, which is signified by these pawns in the center. And if you can, your pieces have energy. If you can't break out, then yeah, you just tend to suffer.
But I tend to, I mean, I'll take Team Tanya here, because I also, I mean, like you described all the advantages for white, but I would argue the flip side of it is black has no weaknesses, and white at some point often runs out of patience and also wants to advance with f4, either e5 or f5, and these bishops are waiting to sort of pounce. If you play moves, like if we play for black real quick, moves that like rook d8 and rook c8, Tanya highlighted, like we'll play queen e2, yeah, rook c8. Tanya highlighted this plan yesterday, which is there's bishop f8 at some point, and you kind of re-double fianchetto. There's queen to b8 and queen a8, and you put the queen on this long diagonal in a battery, and you just sort of sit and wait. And again, it is a choice of style, right? It's a preference of how you want to play the position, but these are hyper-modern positions designed to be full of tension, so that when they explode, your pieces are in the right spot and you can get tactics. So objectively, white is better. The engines love the space. You're going to see the eval bar sitting there for a while, but it remains to be seen who cashes in when the moment is most critical.
And it will happen. The break, the explosion in the position will happen, and then it'll come down to whose pieces are ready for it. We do see a little bit of a time edge there, and I want to get in our room game expert into this, because Eduardo there with a very plain, simple background. Wesley, on the other hand, now on Monday, Simon, when we started, he lost to Nodirbek, and it was a different room. But since he's been winning, we've been seeing him play from here. Is he superstitious? What's going on there?
I'm glad that I'm now the grandmaster of rooms, of backing rooms. And I mean, I have to say, Eduardo's room doesn't give much away, does it? But I do like the way he's put on a nice white shirt. That shows that he means business. You know, maybe he's taking Wesley to the funeral, taking him down. And Wesley has changed rooms. Yeah, I mean, he started playing very badly for him, Wesley. And now he's in this new room. It's a bit of the karma. What's that, feng shui? Is that how you say it? You know,
feng shui.
That's the one.
Shui.
Yeah.
Feng shui.
Where you've got to put stuff in the right area to feel the vibes, you know?
The energy.
Do a little bit of meditation. Maybe that's what Wesley's doing here. getting the right karma running through his body. And I don't really know what else to say about it, really.
Wesley, we also know he's playing on a secret lab chair. Again, we can't show, but I did show Tanya the picture of the Fair Play cam yesterday. But Wesley is crunched over a secret lab chair as a desk, and he likes it. It looks like a back problem to me, a back problem in the future for Wesley with what he's doing right now.
That was a very creative way of actually playing. I haven't seen a player actually play online chess like that, but it seems to be working well for Wesley ever since he has shifted into this room and with the secret lab chair handling his laptop there. And we see a bit of a think here. Wesley has slowed down after a natural developing move, David. What's going on? Why is he taking such a long think?
Yeah, I'm slightly bemused here as to why Wesley has spent 3.5 almost 4 minutes now on this one turn. Maybe he's just deciding where to put white's dark square bishop. Danny, you mentioned often you can choose 3 or 4 different logical homes for it, but is it that critical a decision right now? It looks like you can just develop and continue. Black's next move has been telegraphed, essentially. Iturrizaga is going to bring his knight to c6 next move. OK, Wesley eventually playing the most natural move in the position. But it must be now that Wesley was investing his time on this decision, whether to trade off knights or whether to retreat. Black is a bit cramped with this hedgehog formation, so usually you want to keep as many pieces on the board if you're white when you have that space advantage. But no, he just moves his rook to the center. Actually, there's a semi-threat here that Tanya pointed out yesterday in a similar position. But yeah, it's strange to play such natural moves after such a long tank. Maybe we can show OK, pieces are off the board here, and I think this does benefit Black long term. Tanya will correct me as the expert here if I'm wrong, but there was a threat. For example, if Black had moved the rook, you could see the knight land on d5. Just watch out for this one in all Maroczy bind hedgehog type of positions, because after a temporary sacrifice, this knight is pinned and white will regain the material with interest next turn, simply taking this knight next move. So, OK, the knights are off the board, and Tanya, what do you think Black is going to do? The hedgehog here, is it prickly? Are its spikes ready here if white lashes out?
I think it's like that hedgehog that's curled up right now, but when white starts overextending with the pawns, which we can expect at some point, Black's getting the army ready to become all full of pricks at that point. But I want to highlight what you just mentioned also, David, the trade of the knights. It does favor Black because, again, it comes down to the concept of space. It's clear the pawn structure determines that Black's the one with less space here. You want to try and trade off as many pieces as possible. That's just old traditional chess wisdom that holds true. Now, again, the one problem for Black is that Black can't challenge that light squared bishop just yet. The tactics that you pointed out would be on the board if Black had chosen the other square for the bishop than the one that Wesley... Chesley?
Chesley.
Chesley. So Chesley.
A Freudian slip there. Chesley.
Good name.
That Chesley has gone for with the bishop falling back to e8. And I think he's eyeing those breaks that you guys have been talking about, trying to get either d5 in or b5 in once that queen is out of that pressure on c-line.
Yeah.
I was just about to suggest h3. Go ahead, explain why.
No, H3
it was
nice
played.
Move.
Yeah, I think h3 is played in these positions. One, it's like a high-class waiting move. As Grandmaster Yermolinsky once coined a move like that. You want to play for g4 in some positions. And there's a battery, if we want to highlight, the bishop on b2, yeah, and the queen on d4. David's all over it. We complete each other's
sandwiches.
There we go. Okay, just testing you. G4 is coming. With G5 coming, the knight doesn't have the E8 square. And these are the little subtleties in these structures because obviously Iturrizaga avoided that knight D5 trick by not putting the bishop on C6. But by putting it on E8, it takes away a square for the knight. So these are the things we're going to build up to. And don't be surprised if you see G4 at the right time for Wesley. Probably, maybe not with a king on H2. There could be some discovered checks, but
there's this trap remains, Danny, as you pointed out. This knight is pretty much stuck here. You can never retreat it. It might look like you want to put your bishop on the long diagonal, but now white's knight will always jump out the way. Move like knight d5, and this battery means that queen takes g7 checkmate is a winning threat, and white will most likely win material. So, a few small tactics here to justify these strategic decisions. And meanwhile, Iturrizaga's queen, as Tanya predicted, it is off the c-file, and white drops back as well. Very cagey stuff.
And is there a big threat on the board right now? David, I can smell some tactics.
Again, it's always the same move in the Sicilian. Magnus dropped that knight on d5 last turn, and let's jump back into the board. One threat.
This is lovely. No, it's a tactic you got to be aware of, right? Because it's a common pattern in these positions. Sorry, Simon, go ahead.
No, I can see what you guys are going to try. I mean, I'd love to play b5 here, right? I mean, this is a break that I'd love to try. And maybe when I look at the evaluation bar, not as much as I would, but let's see this tactic anyway. But yeah.
Yeah, and it has been dodged by Iturrizaga, but this would be the tactic jumping out the way. And they say LPDO, loose pieces drop off. This white queen is now attacking a loose piece, the black queen. And if the black queen trades off or moves, then you can flick in an intermezzo. You can flick in a check first, taking this bishop. And at the very least here, you can just take this queen. I'm wondering if there are some cool tactics. Probably you just take, and this endgame is going to be favourable for white. Actually, maybe if you...
I was going to say e5, bishop a3. That's
Oh, that's checkmate, almost. You lose having material there. Wow, nice.
Is that what LPDO means? I thought that was a boy band in the 90s. LPDO.
I think it was too.
Like,
Get with it, Danny.
okay, LPDO.
LPDO.
Loose pieces drop off.
Man, that sounds like a great boy band name, by the way. Chess boy band.
Let's start it. Tanya can be lead singer. We'll just be the backup dancers.
I'm too old for that. I'm more of a rock band kind of man. But I was just thinking, who would be in the ideal, perfect chess boy band?
Oh gosh!
I mean, that's for the chat, because we could have a long chat about this. I mean, you've got to have one of the chess bras. You've got to have. Oh, okay. I'll just yeah. Let's get back to the chess before I really lose it.
Queen h5 avoided this tactic of knight d5. It also opens up the threat at some point potentially of knight g4. It would just be a check, and Potzer c check, Potzer play check. Don't just give check for no reason. But it also prevents g4, right? I will say this is a little reminiscent of Levon Aronian's queen slide that got him in trouble against Iturrizaga. You have to be careful when mom goes and plays with the kids on the playground, right? She can't do the monkey bars anymore, and as the tactics get flying, you can get in trouble there. So. 92. That's what I mean. That's my very vague way of saying maybe 92. Even if you just put the king back on g1, the queen isn't comfortable there. It's a dangerous spot.
It feels like a blitz move, maybe a rapid move. You just want to hint at some threats, put the fear of ghosts into your opponent. But yeah, it could backfire, definitely. And I'm always skeptical of queen moves like this, when a queen is kind of doing all the work on her own and white has no weaknesses, really. So yeah, I'm on board with you there, Danny. But it has forced Wesley So to tank for 2 minutes now. And that's a promising sign.
Whenever I see these... Sorry, David. Go on.
Sorry, I was just saying the clocks are level now.
Clocks are level, and these kind of positions, they always feel like boiling water, right? It takes a while, and it's heating up slowly and slowly, but it's getting there. And then finally a break happens, and...
the water goes everywhere.
Yeah, it just goes everywhere. So even though it feels like a slow strategic fight right now, these positions are so rich that eventually when one of the side tries to push, tries to extend, usually it just explodes and blows open completely. And the last move by Wesley, targeting a weakness that's quite nicely protected, David.
Yeah, a bit strange to me. He's not immediately hitting the d6 pawn because white's queen, despite the fact white is attacking black's pawn on d6 3 times, white's queen is a bit in the way. You kind of want the heavy pieces behind. But he's at least reminding Iturrizaga that there might be some threats, tactics later on to do with e5, some pins here and there. Again, it feels like, to me, a blitz rapid type of move. You're just hinting at something without threatening anything directly, and it has forced Iturrizaga. Loose pieces drop off. That bishop wasn't protected. He's dropped it back.
I was just going to say, speaking of feels like a blitz rapid move, I like that move, right? He doesn't take a ton of time. He knows that there's nothing concretely to do. Put my piece on a protected square. And I think that that's the kind of thing that makes him such a dangerous player in fast time controls, because there's a lot of players who might spend a minute and a half there and then still play bishop f8. Some of the best things that the best players in the world do at fast time controls is they just play quickly. They just play quickly because you know that the critical moment hasn't arrived yet, and you're going to need your time when it's there. So it's not that I love bishop f8 as a move. I just love how fast he played it. He's not going to overthink himself to lose this game.
You've got to be careful of your queen, though, haven't you? As you both pointed out, that the positive for that bishop move is you take away a square that the queen might want to get back to, the c5 square. And there's pros and cons. I mean, I do like white's position. I think black is struggling to find a plan, as you do in these types of positions. But the clocks, they're getting under 5 minutes each. And I think, as I mentioned at the start, I really think Eduardo's best chance is in those real blitz scenarios. I think Wesley's a fantastic blitz player, but I think that's where the pressure could play, get to Wesley a little bit more. So, and there's nothing happening on the board yet, so we could get to that very shortly,
That's a really cool point you make, and that makes me wonder that is part of the match strategy for Eduardo to try and take this to Armageddon.
Well, I think it's the underdog. Every game helps him. I mean, honestly, and the fact that there's only 2 games increases the chances. But he would be happy to be in an Armageddon. I would bet. So. Especially you called out. Wesley starts with white, so Iturrizaga on a little bit of a disadvantage. And I think fast time controls and Armageddon would be something he would welcome. He's already won 1 Armageddon match in this event, although so is Wesley. By the way, you mentioned that he's a great blitz player. I want to point out that Wesley So, as we've measured accuracy in blitz, and this is some stuff that we do with cheat detection, all kinds of things, always like looking into how good the players are. Wesley has only ever lost to 2 players in the Speed Chess Championship. They're named Magnus Carlsen and Hikaru Nakamura. And Wesley is, I think, one of the most underrated, accurate blitz players in the world. He actually has put up the best performance compared to computers in the 3-minute segments that we've ever had. So just remember that about Wesley. When he's on form, dude's a tough cookie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's his style of play. He rarely blunders.
Yeah, he just doesn't make mistakes.
Yeah, he calculates extremely well. I mean, that's they all do, but Wesley's calculation is just it is better than Eduardo's at the real critical moments.
And he is the global chess champion as well, Wesley So. So definitely one of the best players on the planet. But David, you mentioned that you've rarely lost an Armageddon. There's one guy who managed to do it.
Iturrizaga. It was at the London Chess Classic. I was having the tournament with my life, Blitz tournament, and I met Iturrizaga in the final. And yeah, he was too quick for me. I started with white there. I started with an extra minute, and I think 10 moves into the game, I was a minute down. He was just bang, 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 super accurate and super confident. And as we've seen throughout this tournament, he's a tricky guy. So yeah, I think if it comes down to Armageddon, it will just become a bit more random, and that suits Iturrizaga. Meanwhile, this position, he's trying to make it more random, Eduardo here, but Wesley keeps shutting the door. He's just saying, okay, I've pushed the black queen now to a bit of a poor square. I'm covering all my pawns. It's you. You have the burden of breaking out now, and we can see that reflected in the clock times.
I mean, this is why I can't play these positions as black, because I want to play G5, right? This is why I just can't play them, because I know it's a bad move, but it looks like fun. And I want to play G5, maybe put my queen behind the pawn. Actually, Bobby Fischer did play, to be fair, a similar idea in probably a completely different position, but it was at least a hippopotamus kind of structure where a very famous game, I think it was against Ulf Andersson, where he played this pawn push. And how ridiculous is that? I'm sure the answer is very, but if you want to get a bit of action, maybe don't laugh too much, people, or think I'm completely crazy. It looks very loosening, right? It's not going to work because White's got an E5 counter break, I think, at the right moment, but still, you know.
And Iturrizaga there, touching the 2-minute mark. Simon, the idea you mentioned, it might be on the board. What are the chances of that, David?
Yeah, I think Simon's being too modest. I think it could well just be a good move. Maybe we can get an assist here from the engine. What does the computer suggest here for black? Long think now from Iturrizaga. You see the panic on the camera. Yeah. He knows he's frozen. He spent more than half his time on this move. He needs to speed up.
Yeah, this is a real problem, isn't it? No matter what he plays now, he's put a lot of...
It's the best move!
Oh, well, there you go. Sometimes... Wow. OK, he's gone for a more restrained one there. But he spent too much time there, I feel, yeah? I mean, he spent so much time on that move, and he's got under half the amount of time of Wesley, and this move is a bit more traditional. And I think, again, you want to get Wesley in a bit of an uncompromising situation. Same idea, though, attacking that pawn in the middle of the board.
I agree, but I like your G5 better than the position we saw here, Simon. So I agree. You were being modest. It was a great call-out to that Fischer game. I feel like E5 is the positional no-no you want to avoid, not because black's position is, I don't know, it's not even that much worse according to the computer, but to me, the D6 pawn being backward, the D5 square belonging to black makes these positions a little bit less flexible.
Yeah.
D5 square belonging to white, I'm sorry.
Black's queen is pretty much stuck on the king side now, and it's just basically all attention switched to one flank because you have that kind of lost that flexibility, as you say, Danny. But how will Wesley reposition his pieces? The white knight looked nice and pretty a moment ago. Feels like it's a bit caught in the way now. It needs to decide which side to go to. I love Iturrizaga's last move. Again, just hinting that you might push that pawn forward. Every move now, Wesley has to worry about Harry stepping towards the black king. And, OK, he's so afraid of that he blocks, giving up some squares, but trying to close down lines as much as possible, allowing this knight check. The white king's got to step back.
It's heating up, though. I mean, just because of the time situation, the position is sort of fizzling, as Tanya said as well. My one danger, I think, for Black though, is that okay, he's played some aggressive moves, but I think he might come to a brick wall at some point, and then he might have to start going backwards. And when that occurs, White has a superior positional assets here. He's got that big square that Danny pointed out in the middle of the board, D5, a major outpost. Black's got a weak pawn in the middle of the board. So it's kind of like, you know, Black needs to keep this kind of initiative flowing, really, in this position if he can.
Wow.
Oh, they can't be...
Mind games.
Mind games from Wesley. There's no world he wants to draw here. He's up 2.5 minutes on the clock and in a pretty good spot.
Wesley bail out with a repetition, or does he think he has more in this position? It will make his intentions clear, and he's going for it.
He's going for it. The position repeated itself twice, but not that third magical time. And Wesley there just blinking really. I know he wants to win. He wants to massage this, not necessarily improving his position with this last bishop move, but keeping the game alive. And the clock times.
I love that move A5 by Iturrizaga. Holding the B4 square prevents the knight's route to the D5 square. And again, he finds it quickly. He trusts himself. He needs this to become a mutual time scramble and not one where he's just down 2 minutes on the clock.
100%. And his time is under a minute now. You know, it's worth pointing that out. But he is changing gear, and he's changing gear, and he's playing good moves. And we can't really fault many of his moves at the moment. You know, he's doing everything he needs to do. Now, I mean, I'm still looking for these breaks. I mean, you know, when you've got a kind of closed position like this, you've got to look for your pawn breaks, and both sides can consider moving their F pawns. Again, that comes a great risk as well, but this is the kind of thing you must do in these positions. Keep an eye out for your breaks and your opponent's pawn breaks.
Which way is Wesley's queen going? Okay, the queen steps back. I was saying it could have gone to the king side, the queen side. Okay, repeating the position again. Second time we've seen this one. What will Wesley try to keep the game going? Extra minute on the clock, but that time advantage is slipping away slowly. Eduardo really has upped the pace.
Wow.
Second time we've seen this position as well. If White drops the queen back, that would have been a draw, but...
Look at that move, by the way. If the queens come off, the knight runs out of squares. And F3 is going to trap the pony. Not quite on the rim, but still pretty grim in regards to his options there. So...
that was nice.
Hey, rhyme time. I'll be here all week.
Good. That's good work.
Wow, and Iturrizaga, they're refusing the queen trades. This is heating up, but also the action in Division 2. And Katty's got a big update for us from the winners' final.
That's right, Tanya. We do have first draw between Denis Lazovic and Sam Savian. Lazovic had a slightly better position, but it ended in a draw. They are playing second game. This looks equal to me. I think we might see here possible Armageddon. Meanwhile, we have another game, Martinez on fire, winning first game against Kamsky, and also second game looks very promising for him. And meanwhile, Tabatabai, again, no show from him. He plays the tournament, and his opponent goes to the final right away.
Thank you for that, Katty. We will be checking in with you throughout the day. And now it's all back on this big moment with Iturrizaga under a minute on the clock. Wesley about to reach the minute mark. The bishops are off the board. Who does that trade favor?
I think it's pros and cons. Black was a bit cramped, so trading pieces should help. However, that was White's bad bishop, and that was Black's good bishop. Now, if you compare pieces, Black's dark square bishop looks pretty sad to me. What do you guys think?
I totally agree that there are pros and cons. Black gets more space, but the D5 square is only weaker with that light square bishop disappearing. If that knight on D3 could somehow maneuver itself, F2, D1, E3, if you're looking at the letters on the board there. So Rook D1 is also a bit of a start of that. But watch out for G6. G6 is coming from Iturrizaga, and that queen, she might have wandered a little too far because there's a skewer. How do you deal with that?
G6 looks very playable. I mean, it'll be a very funny situation of the black queen as well, won't it, when you play that move? But I guess White has to come back and go F4, maybe?
Yeah, but
it's on the board.
Oh, it's on the board. And
we're going to find out.
The problem, when I noticed it, was that it's not just that the queen is looking trapped there, but even if you retreat, there's a skewer because the rook stands behind her, and ultimately that would be a material win.
Can you push the F-pawn?
I think you have to push the F-pawn, but this comes with weaknesses as well. Suddenly holes around the white king.
Yeah.
Maybe the black knight comes back. The downside, as Simon pointed out, is black's queen looks pretty awful as well. But wow, look at this.
Oh, he sacked the exchange.
Okay.
And I love this idea from Wesley. I think this is actually better than f4, especially when you're entering time pressure. Don't open your own king. It just increases chances of blunders. You have a pawn for the exchange, and look at that d6 pawn.
And it's that 17th piece once again. Just 16 seconds for Eduardo Iturrizaga. He's up an exchange for a pawn there. White's knight jumping onto that central outpost that, David, you have been pointing out. Knight coming onto d5. This looks like more than enough compensation for Wesley.
Yeah, practical turns, so easy to play with white. You just improve your pieces. Black is really having to contort just to stay alive, and this is ugly chess.
That bishop g5 looks like a killer to me. I say killer, I mean, there's a lot of play left, but the white knight, I mean, you could, if you want to keep it very simple, take black's knight off, and that white knight is coming to the most beautiful square you can imagine, and it's going to come here now anyway. That knight, look at that. You can never really dislodge that piece, and white has amazing compensation, but the problem is practically when you're playing these positions, what side do you want? Even if it's equal, you want to have the side with the easier play, and white now going for the exchange, still quite complex now. I mean, he didn't need to grab that one immediately.
Yeah,
It's
it's
an interesting decision given the compensation. And look at Eduardo's decision, taking h4, blowing open white's king.
I like it.
I love it.
I don't think Wesley should have done this.
I agree.
This loses a bit of control and gives Eduardo what he wants, but he's only got 7 seconds left. But look at the white king. The white king, I don't care what the evaluation bar says, it is weak. The black knight can come to f4. The rook can come over. This is dangerous for Wesley. Really dangerous. Yeah. There comes the rook. g5. This is that king is exposed.
Materialistic from Wesley. I think it's all turned around now. White's knight's so far offside.
And Iturrizaga made that last move with just 1 second on the clock. G5 was an idea that, Simon, you pointed out earlier. It's on the board.
King's on the run.
Oh, my God. Is Iturrizaga going to take this one?
This is absolutely amazing. The nerves that this guy has had in every time scramble. He's gained time.
On the board.
He's gained time back on the clock. He might be up on the clock if the moves continue at this rate.
So tense, and now he's trading off white's active knight for the passive black knight. White's king in so much trouble from both sides of the board. Black's queen can start jumping. Iturrizaga needs to move, though. You can see the panic on his face. Creating threats, though, with every move.
God, look at that. He's got his hand on his head there.
God.
He is so stressed out.
Tension. He knows he's so close in this one. He's turned it around. But can he convert this into a full point?
Well, look at knight f5 coming for Wesley, too. If Wesley finds the right move here, now he's under 10 seconds. He actually has just as many attacking chances against Eduardo's king here in a moment.
A4, that's very slow, and the black queen comes in. This is practically much better for black.
And look at Iturrizaga. He leans in. Did he miss that move?
I think he's wondering, where's the beef? Where's the mate? But he doesn't have anything here. And Wesley can even take the d6 pawn.
Wow.
This is it. Wesley is staying with it.
Oh, there's too much pressure on him.
He's panicking. He's freezing.
He's panicking. And
he's 2 pawns down now.
Yeah.
And only one more check, and white's rook is ready to come back and block.
And the queen is now coming into
Queen
the
h3.
position.
What a move there. A subtle retreat. She's going to enter into c8, and the attack is on the black king.
White's knight holding everything together there. They say a knight is a king's best friend. White's knight is beautiful.
Yeah.
Iturrizaga.
And you can just tell Wesley is the much calmer, the pressure. It's immense. And you can see that Eduardo is...
figured it out.
That's just checkmate.
Yeah.
You get the rook in and look at Iturrizaga. He knows he was so close, but now it is falling apart. And that is the end of the game.
Wesley holds on, reminiscent of how he held on in the scramble versus Fabiano.
Look at Wesley, he reacts. What a tensed battle that was at the very end, and a heartbreaking end for Iturrizaga there. Wesley taking the full point. Another wild roller coaster, and that's what it is when you play against Eduardo Iturrizaga with the Sicilian. And there we see Wesley. He is relieved.
He's relieved, and as I was saying, he held on and won a similar game for those fans who watched yesterday against Fabiano Caruana in the first game of their match. Very similar in that it could have gone either way there for a while, but Wesley's nerves seem to have arrived here at the Aimchess Rapid.
Nerves of steel by Wesley. So in those last critical moments, David, take us through that big spot in the game.
Yeah, as Danny said, this game could have gone either way. There were a few twists and turns there. Wesley came up with a great material sacrifice, but maybe grabbing some material back a bit later on backfired. And this was the moment Eduardo got excited. We saw it on the camera. He jumped in with his queen. It looks like he's got some devastating threats, some nasty checks in store. But the move that shocked him was the fact that white could calmly capture this pawn. And suddenly he panicked. Iturrizaga couldn't find anything here. He gave a check, and this was the moment that the game slipped away. Instead of playing the very slow defensive move, rook g6, he should have continued being consistent, continued attacking pieces, and queen takes pawn, counter-threatening the white knight, would have kept the game alive. This one would have still been in the balance and any result possible. Instead, he went passive and got checkmated. Heartbreak, but accuracy from Wesley So yet again.
And now it is Iturrizaga who is in a must-win situation going into Game 2. Wesley So, after a thrilling roller coaster, takes Game 1 with the white pieces. Eduardo will start Game 2 with black, and we'll be back with all the Aimchess Rapid action in just a few.
It doesn't look like much, but neither would a Sicilian defense to the untrained eye. This is a performance enhancer. You don't see it? How about now? Manage your air quality, sharpen your performance, change the game with Air Things.
The winner between Wesley and Iturrizaga will go on to play Nodirbek Abdusattorov. It's all about getting that final spot into the Aimchess Rapid final to fight it out against Magnus Carlsen, the GOAT. He's waiting. He's got a rest day today. He will be playing the grand final tomorrow. And he was dominating in the tournament so far in the winners' final. But how did he do when we put him up to an Air Things challenge? Take a look.
So now we're going to try the Air Things memory test. 2 years ago, in 2021, I tested Magnus's memory by setting up a bunch of famous positions and seeing whether he could recognize them.
Okay, this is the 24th game from Seville, obviously.
Now we're going to do the same, but with an added twist. We're not even going to be able to see which pieces are which. Every piece will be represented by an Air Things device instead. So let's see how Magnus gets on.
First of all, I'm thinking like, what are all these pawns on the last rank? But if I'm going to go piece by piece, I'm hoping that this is a king and these are pawns and that this is a bishop, and hopefully queen h6 should be mated too.
2016, right?
Yes.
Carlsen against Karyakin.
So this test is called, has Magnus been following the World Championship? Ding is white against Nepomniachtchi. And here he could have taken the rook with the queen. Eventually, queen goes back here. King to d2, queen b2, rook c2, takes king f3, and eventually the king is running away. Ding should have found us then.
Is this any more difficult for you?
No, not really. The games are too famous, that's the problem. This has to be Kasparov Topalov from 99 Linares.
What characteristics make you recognize this position?
Maybe like it's just the structure on the queen side. That's a queen and this is a queen, and he played rook d4, cd4, take a5, d4, king f4, take, queen c4. Oh, he takes an f6, yeah, he takes an f6.
Nice. Okay.
I need to know my classics. Oh my. So this one is one of my happier early chess memories. It's from the World Youth Championship under 14. I'm playing black in the first round against future Grandmaster Nodirbek Hammer. That's the king over there. This and this checkmate. And this looks like checkers. So few pieces, but it's definitely a game I've seen, yeah? Almost.
I don't want to give it away, but you will have, that's the clue, you will have seen it.
Is this from like entertainment?
Maybe.
Oh yeah, so there's this one where... No, that's not it. I'm not sure I've actually seen this. Okay.
In that case, I apologise. It's from the Queen's Gambit TV show when Beth plays, what's his name, Towns in her first ever tournament.
Oh! There's this, okay, I can't remember that, but there's this weird trap, yeah.
And this is a rook, and it's trapped now because there's a knight on d4 and a king on d2.
Ah! Yeah. This rook is actually trapped, and this is a pawn as
so it blocks the escape.
Yeah, I remember that sequence from the series now, but like I wasn't even close, to be honest.
Impressive. And you got a chance to win the Airthings Wave Plus device signed by Magnus Carlsen. Head over to Champions Chess Store Twitter and solve this puzzle. Submit your solutions using the hashtag ChessChamps and you could win this Airthings Wave Plus device that I've got with me right here. And it is signed by Magnus Carlsen. And I just noticed it's got the Queen at the back. David, is this one of the Airthings devices that you had on the challenge?
Yeah, I think it's one of the pieces we played with in those games. Great price.
I know the answer to the puzzle.
Don't say it, Danny.
Can I get the Airthings thing
and
if
you
I
can't
solve
enter the contest.
Okay.
Not allowed. But you can head over to the Champions Chess Store Twitter for all the details on that. But right now, it was Wesley So's Queen who got the job done at the very end in game one. And he's ready. He needs just a draw to make it into the losers final to take on Nodirbek Abdusattorov. But Eduardo Tirizaga, one thing we know, that it is going to be a fight. It is going to be fireworks on the board. And Simon, you are happy seeing the English.
I am. Yeah, it's always nice to see in English. Again, I have to say it, obviously the opening with the best name in the world.
And the best accent.
Much better than the Dutch, the French. That's about all I can think of at the moment.
Scandinavian.
Scandinavian,
the Sicilian.
You know, Sicilian, yeah, that's right. It's got a great name. And we're seeing a more...
Budapest?
Budapest
is great, though.
Yeah, Budapest is a lot of fun, I have to say. Great city as well. And this is actually quite a quiet start, right, David? I mean, this is like the Reti variation of the English, where you basically give a lot of space away with white, but you try to get your bishops fianchettoed, and you're in for a long game. Is that a good strategy when you need to win?
Yeah, there tend to be two popular strategies when you're in a must-win situation with white. Either you go really direct, you go on the attack from move one, maybe choose a really kind of forcing opening line to test your opponent, or you just take a step back. And this is something that Kasparov, Carlsen, they've all spoken about. Actually, in crunch moments, you've got to back yourself to play these slow games and play on the opponent's nerves. And that seems to be what Iturrizaga is doing here.
It's unfortunate if the momentum of this event continues the way it was. Every time we've had a player in a must-win situation, they had black. And when they won and forced Armageddon, in this case, Iturrizaga has white in a must-win situation. So if momentum is anything, or at least the vibe of this tournament, he may not be able to get the job done, even though he's already done it before when he had the black pieces.
But even if he's able to get the kind of position that he got in game one, that's his chances, right? It's anyone's game then. And that's what he needs to try and create. And with that in mind, is this the opening approach that could work for Iturrizaga?
It could. He's done it before. He's an expert in these type of flank openings, so I think he's just going back to basics, what he knows and loves best. But I'm sceptical against someone like Wesley. So
I am too, and the reason is because Wesley has faced this type of approach against Hikaru Nakamura so many times online in Blitz. Wesley already has a little bit of an advantage, as you can see from the eval bar there. It's because he's seen this circus before, right? So again, Iturrizaga, I think you made a really great point. He's playing to the psychology of it. He's going to get a position he knows well, calm himself, and let the game happen, right? But I think Wesley is also feeling comfy.
I would have thought Wesley's very happy with this. I mean, it's always nice to get a space advantage when you have the black pieces. It's very rare, actually, when you've got the black pieces to get more space than your opponent. And you can see here the real issue that white has in this structure is that black pawn right in the middle of the board. That black pawn is so annoying for white. It sort of cuts the board in two. It stops white coordinating easily. And, OK, I mean, Eduardo went for this type of structure, so he's obviously happy to get it. But it's not supposed to be scary for black is the problem. And he's going to have to hope Wesley goes wrong. And Wesley now supports that pawn in the centre with another aggressive push there.
Yeah, and one thing we have to do with all openings is kind of recognize patterns, recognize pawn structures, and this is what we call a Benoni structure. Normally that actually arises with reverse colors, so it's black choosing the Benoni there, but this time it's Iturrizaga who's playing with this pawn structure with d3 and c4, and like Simon says, giving the opponent more space. And the problem with the Benoni is it does have this reputation. It's, I think, translates to son of sorrow, and they do say even the best Benoni is a Benoni.
I think that, don't they say even the best Benoni is a bad Benoni?
Exactly.
Basically.
I was trying to be nice about it, but
it's an opening that you get tactical chances, right? But positionally, it's just supposed to be bad, right? So
the Benoni is baloney.
Yeah.
So white essentially in the in the Bologna opening is trying to push pawns on the queen side. Often you want to kind of push where you're stronger, the side you have the majority. Black meanwhile plays in the center, often playing for this break with e4. That's why Eduardo has positioned his knight on the c2 square. He wants to support this push while keeping some pressure on this d4 pawn, making e4 less likely. But here, black can start by clamping down on the queen side, slowing down the process on that flank. Also, you do have ideas of just bringing your bishop out, targeting this weak pawn. And all of these things, they do tend to add up. I'm very biased here. I love this structure from the black side. So I am curious to see what Iturrizaga's got in mind, other than just giving Wesley kind of positions that he's not used to. With black, as Simon says, you rarely get such a promising position this early.
Yeah.
Thoughts here? Predictions?
I think that, yeah, I think you laid it out really well. You can tell in our tone, I guess, as chess commentators, we're biased toward the chess in the end, and the chess position is favored for black for a reason. You can see the eval, but at the same time, again, it's a position that is going to have dynamics, I guess, similar to the hedgehog, Tanya, and that at some point the Benoni tends to explode. Things like the bishop on g2 becomes open, the tactics on the b file. So there's opportunities for your opponent to go wrong, right? It's not a static or symmetrical position, and that can play to your favor in a rapid time control where, you know, again, at some point both players won't have very much on the clock.
It's a good opening to play if you need to win as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you need to win, it's probably the best opening to play, because even if it is a bit of baloney, you get, and I love that saying.
It is. It's full of baloney.
It is full
Always
of
has
baloney.
been.
You get tactical chances, and you keep all the pieces on the board, and things, as Danny said, can just burst into life.
And Eduardo there, after his last move, he is threatening to expand on the queen side. So he's got ideas of his own. He wants to push that b pawn up the board, and Wesley slowed down. It's already good news for Eduardo if he can get Wesley to think early on, so that once those critical moments arrive, you don't have that much time to sort of navigate through the complications. But I think right now, for Eduardo, it's also so important to forget the last game. What has just happened? It was such an adrenaline rush for fans, for commentators, but for these two players especially. So to just leave that behind him, because I just saw with his hand holding his head right now, it felt like he was still thinking about what had just gone by. But he needs to forget that, focus on this, and it's the kind of positions where chances will come, chances for both players to go wrong.
Agreed. There's actually an instructive thing here, if we want to talk about it, that I think the traditional move would be a5, and that's a move we all think about in these positions to slow down white's plan, as Tanya pointed out before. But I think more modern computer prep wisdom has actually changed the way the players look at that expansion. I think what Wesley's considering is actually bishop g4, or even h6. But let's play bishop g4, because that's a common move in the Benoni, because often you're actually happy to get rid of that knight. And if b4 happens, you make some other move like h6 again. These are common moves. And if b5 happens, the knight actually will head to a5. And what's funny is instead of trying to block it, you let it expand, and there isn't much more to do. And there isn't much more to go. And sometimes you will see black play b6 and relocate and use the c5 square. They'll use your space against you. And oh my God, Wesley pushed d4.
Wow.
Okay, that's what he was thinking. That is not normally what you're supposed to do. We saw the lines I was giving where black maintains an edge. Wesley is all in on something he sees to take advantage of now, which I'm kind of surprised by this move.
Yeah, it feels like he's got a draw in hand. A draw would suit him, and he's just trying to blow open the position, trying to force the issue. But yeah, that normally doesn't follow conventional wisdom, where you have to prepare these types of breaks. Obviously, if you trade a pawn in the center, then black's knight will jump in. There's access now to c3. There might be a nasty fork on the white queen and rook. So I'm not sure whether that will be appealing to Iturrizaga. The other option would be to take on d4. And what is the idea here? It looks like you might sacrifice a pawn temporarily. Do you just move the bishop out the way, maybe, to attack this knight? Do you bring the bishop out to attack the white queen first?
You take g3.
You take g3, yeah. For example, jumping out the way with the bishop. Yes, the bishop will fall, but the knight as well. Yeah, maybe here it's just the fact that white's bishop becomes very strong. Yeah, maybe just take this pawn as well, and we'll trade down to an endgame where white's bishops will be very strong. But yeah, Wesley, he's calculated something.
But he had a bit of a head shake. He played e4, and then it felt like he wasn't really sure about what he's done, or just sort of going into this tactical skirmish when he needs only a draw. But the one thing that I've been noticing about Wesley this tournament, we keep talking about Wesley's so solid, right? But the decisions that he's been taking have been very uncharacteristic. The one against Fabi, not repeating, not bailing out, going into this crazy mess of a position, what we saw in game 1 today. And then this decision to go e4 when he has the option to go with the same developing move. Does that surprise you at all?
Completely surprises me, and I'll add further context to it. For those who watched on day 1, he was up a game in the match versus Nodirbek, and he kind of beat himself in that match. Remember, guys, he gave Nodirbek chances. Again, we called it very uncharacteristically Wesley. So this move, remember when he played c5 and gave the diagonal the chances. So I totally agree with you, and I think we suffer mostly from Magnus bias-itis as commentators, maybe Hikaru's second, but we also suffer from Wesley bias-itis, so I'm trying to justify e4. But the reality is, like, that was a bad move. Like, the computers say it was a bad move. Like, if you look at Chess.com events, it's a bad move, and it's not the right way for Black to keep an advantage here, and I think there's a reason he was shaking his head.
Yeah, but maybe he's not playing for advantage here. Maybe he just figures that at the very minimum, the center will blow open, things will get traded off. I'm still trying to calculate my way through this, and it's Iturrizaga as well, clearly. Surprised by this last move. Simon, is this something you would do? Would you have built up, or do you think this direct approach is going to pay off?
I think you have to calculate it. I mean, you have to calculate the most forcing move in the position, always, because it can change things in your favour, and this is a very typical break that you play in this structure. It is a bit impatient maybe, but if it achieves the goal, and that could be multiple exchanges everywhere, there could be just pieces, pawns coming off the board, then, that's maybe something that Wesley's seen that I haven't seen. I don't know if we've seen, that he can just tell that after the exchange it will come to a bit of a drawn position. But yeah, I mean, it is strange. I also agree it's not like Wesley to play in this way, and he normally plays a bit more patience. But we'll see. I don't know. I mean,
obviously, if it blows open and he gets the draw, then I guess we'll be like, no, I knew it was bad, but I was simplifying. But I agree with you. It's not like Wesley, and
Let's see. I'm still not sure what White should play here, though. So it's like we say all that, and it's like, what does White actually do? It's like, oh, so.
Yeah, and often the top players, they do this, right? Often they know when to not follow conventional wisdom rather than slowly build up, as kind of is prescribed here. He's just playing the position itself. He doesn't see any reason not to do it. So he's kind of, backing his own calculation here. He's calculated the fact that he thinks he can get away with this. And he's also forced Iturrizaga to burn a lot of time here. 4 minutes, suddenly no more just slow maneuvering, cagey, nervy chess. It's just calculation battle.
Your opponent plays this move that Wesley just did, and you better think, because it is a critical moment right now for Eduardo. And Simon, you mentioned you wouldn't know how to respond to this situation. Not just you. I saw a feature chat which said that not sure what are the plans in this position. And David, it would be really cool if you can highlight some of the ideas and strategies that both players can have to develop this game.
Yeah, let's jump in and show some. Right now, it's become very concrete. If, for example, Wesley hadn't blown open the center with this move, then I think, as Denny was mentioning, some of the ideas, either you expand on the queen side, you can start building up first, bring your bishop out, maybe reposition your queen to connect the rooks, and then play for this central break. But now that Wesley's gone for it, let's investigate what to do here. I mean, my first instinct, and I think what Iturrizaga is calculating, is whether he can get away with being greedy. Let's just show this one more time. I think maybe the downside is, we see the evaluation bar react slightly. Maybe the downside is that Black can just move the bishop, attack the knight, and you're forced away. And no matter where you go, this pawn is dropping next.
I also liked your bishop g4 that you mentioned the first time. Now that we're here, I think if knight takes bishop g4 is also really strong, because the queen doesn't have a lot of options. And then the d-pawn and the knight are even more vulnerable when that bishop moves. So I didn't calculate beyond that, but just proving your point that this shows why Iturrizaga can't take on d4, either bishop g4 or bishop c5.
Body language expert required right now. Did you just see Iturrizaga? He's been thinking for a while, and then he leaned back, hand on heads there. What's going on in his mind right now? Break it down for us, Sai.
Am I the expert again?
I love these segments. Can we just say that? I love these segments.
PhD in body language, Mr. Williams over here. And my fine-tuning of the players is that Wesley is very relaxed there. The little turn of the head to the right-hand side shows that he's just recalling a bit of information, and they're banging out the moves on the board. So we might have to go there, and you're going to save my judgment on what's happening. So
it looks like Iturrizaga found the right line, though. He took a lot of time, but he looks like he found the right line because he's still holding the balance. That C3 pawn is a target.
Did you read that comment there?
But is that for Iturrizaga or for you? I'm not sure, Simon.
What's your body language saying?
Trust the man with the beard.
What's my body language saying?
What's your body?
I wanted to sneak into your cam, but they went to the shared one.
I think body language for Eduardo, he's still... I mean, when you lean forwards, it's a natural way to say you're still very excited about the game. You're quite excited about your possibilities. When I'm playing chess, if I've got a good position, I'm definitely more over the board, and when my position's a bit bad, I tend to slump back a lot more. So I think he's probably happy the way things are going. The position has changed a lot, so we should probably go there. But the white knight is now on a good route, right, David? Coming straight into the middle, I guess.
Yeah, let's talk about what's changed in the position. We saw a quick few moves there. Iturrizaga did calculate, and let's just do an action replay. He decided to capture this pawn in the center, and the black knight jumped in. And rather than panic, like I would have done about this knight jumping to c3, he says, OK, I can trade you off once you get there. And now, after knight to e3, I think it's just all about the c3 pawn. If it lives, obviously Wesley's doing well. Any endgame's going to be great for him. There will be tactics to do with advancing this pawn later. But if it drops off the board in the next 2 or 3 moves, then simply white will have an extra pawn and great central control. So a key moment for Wesley right now. I'm loving this last knight move. As you said, Simon, on a great circuit, you can jump to the center. It also stops the black bishop from ever landing on f5 to kind of either hit this rook or also support the advance of this black pawn. I'm wondering whether jumping in with this bishop somewhere to support this pawn a bit later on is one idea. Maybe black just needs to get developed. But either way, big moment for Wesley. So he needs something now. Otherwise, strategically, white's doing very well.
It's going to be all about timing. Can Eduardo Iturrizaga get to that c3 pawn? Because that would just mean he ends up with a position with an extra pawn. So will it be a big strength or a weakness? And he starts with a move that threatens to trade pieces. Eduardo is perhaps going to jump in with the knight. Is that a good moment?
I like Eduardo's position here. Again, I know I think he played the calm moves, and I guess I'm kind of standing by what I said. I didn't like e4 from Wesley. I think obviously simplifying the position. Look at what he's done. He's offering a queen trade. He maybe wants to make another minor piece trade. Maybe Wesley's thinking that even if he loses that c3 pawn, he has good drawing chances in the endgame. We should remind anyone tuning in, Wesley's up 1-0, which means a half a point moves him on to the next round. So Wesley is playing a little bit with house money. That said, I still don't like it. And I think he's giving Eduardo the kind of position you want when you're in a must-win position, which is you have a safe way to keep pushing. So I'm liking knight d5 here, and I'm liking Eduardo's chances.
Yeah, likewise. I think that this is the type of position that suits Eduardo as well. It's slightly imbalanced, and also he does have a good positional sense, so he knows exactly where to place his pieces. He's debating whether to jump in with the white knight to d5 or whether to trade queens first. There we go. And wow, going straight for that pawn. We said it was the key square, the key piece right now. And OK, can black keep that pawn alive? That's the key question for Wesley.
Yeah, strange. I mean,
fall off, Simon.
I totally agree. I mean, that pawn is a weakness, isn't it? More than a strength at the moment. You can't really easily hold on to that pawn in any way that I can see, and maybe you just have to give the pawn up and try to use your 2 bishops. But white's knight on e3 is such an octopus. It controls so many squares with its tentacles. I'm just pretending to be an octopus here, so you kind of know what I'm talking about. And you know, it's going into the center, to the left, to the right, stopping the bishop coming in. Here we go.
Are you conducting? What are you pointing at?
No, I was just being a chess bra there for a moment. I know they're over in England on their tour at the moment, so hello to them. But yeah, it's such a strong knight, and it just looks like white is doing okay. But can Wesley find a way to neutralise things and sort of head towards the draw? There's nothing simple here, is there? There's no easy way to do that.
Yeah, and that's frustrating when you just need a draw, when it's a bit too much in your mind, when you want to just force the issue. That's, I think, the reason behind Wesley playing this e4 move we've been talking about. And right now, he'll be realising there's no way to just trade everything off. He's going to go down a pawn, and he has to dig deep now to find compensation, first of all, but also to make it a bit messy so that white's extra pawn doesn't actually count. And yeah, white's knight, if it does jump into the centre, it's going to be one-way traffic. You've got to be really careful here, Wesley, to stem the momentum.
I mean, what a fairy tale it would be if we get an Armageddon game and
we'd love it.
You know, and something happens. So he is giving up the pawn now, and I think this is probably the wise choice. Try to get counterplay somewhere else. You do have the 2 bishops. You know, your dark square bishop is incredibly strong. We should mention that. It's a really good piece, Black's dark square bishop. Lots of range it can go to.
Well, we should mention Wesley shaking his head there. I mean, he's just objectively not thrilled about what happened here, although he can't see the eval bar. We can. I guess now that I've been critical of it, I'll say, like, decent drawing chances here, right? And all he needs is the half point. So as long as he can let go of his frustration, he's probably still in a decent match spot, even though Eduardo, you got to be like, well, I got a chance, right? At least I have a chance here to send this to Armageddon.
Yeah, success for Eduardo in the fact that he's got a position with no risk where he's the only one who can really win. But yeah, objectively, as you said, Simon, I think the key piece is Black's dark squared bishop, unchallenged. Beautiful piece there and gives great compensation. Often that's modern chess as well. Danny mentioned it with the advent of AlphaZero and all these neural networks. Bishop pairs, squares, activity, often pushing the rook's pawns. That tends to be great compensation. So yeah, it's going to be hard for White to somehow turn that 3 versus 2 pawn advantage he has on the queen side into something more tangible. Knight b4, meanwhile, trading off White's best piece. Logical.
I suppose another thing Black can head towards is opposite colored bishop position. If one pair of knights gets exchanged, then he's able to swap his light square bishop for the knight. There's going to be many theoretical draws there where there's nothing that can be done. And then we see our brain in a cup.
I was wondering if that image could come on the screen and go without you mentioning it. I had an internal bet with myself and I lost.
No chance. I have to comment on the flying brain in a cup image, which is beautiful.
And if the fans actually get their hands on this trophy, they'll be flying to Toronto for the season end final.
That's right. Maybe that's why it has wings, and maybe that's why it's flying, is because it's going to get you on a plane to the live final.
Yeah. 8 big brains waiting in Toronto for
8 big brains. Yeah. Magnus already there. Hikaru.
Nodirbek already there.
Wesley, so, I mean, that's a guy you want to see there. He is the reigning global champion, right? He and Magnus were the only two, because Magnus was the reigning tour champion. Wesley was the reigning Chess.com global champion, only ones who were seeded into our first event. But Magnus punched his ticket, and Wesley hasn't. So.
And Hikaru was there, actually, because he is the Sweet Chess champion.
That's right. So.
And we see some trades have happened. Now, Black does have the bishop pair in compensation for that extra pawn that Eduardo's enough. And again, the question is it enough to win? It's really nice you're playing this position for 2 results as Eduardo Iturrizaga, but is this going to be enough, David?
This is the tricky thing. Without the evaluation bar, I would be super excited for White. I just don't see any immediate way for Black to neutralize this position and to either get the pawn back or trade off all the rooks, go for opposite color bishops, like you say, Simon. And also the clock time's roughly level. I think that will be a kind of source of relief for Eduardo compared to the last game. But then again, we see the eval bar and we think, okay, it should be level.
Well, let's talk about it, because I think, regardless of us blaming the eval bar, I think there's a reason for it. Okay, I love King F8. I was going to suggest either that or G6, because what I want to point out here, David, if we bring up the analysis board, is squares matter. High-level computers continue to teach us things that we always knew, which is, look at who owns the only really open and effective file, right? If that knight on F3 ever moves, there's the D2 square for the rook, right? We talk about who owns the pawn tension. White can never really take A4 without creating all kinds of problems, like opening the rook and weakening C4. And you can't challenge the D file because Black's rook is there. So it's right. The dark square bishop holds every square if you ever want to advance your 3-on-2 majority. And by the way, as I said, the knight can't move because of D2. And if the knight can't move, that bishop on G2 is not playing. So again, like, as you break down the specifics of the position, there's reasons why this is equal. Like, Black has a phenomenal sense of control and phenomenal compensation.
Yeah, and that's why these top players, especially the strategic players like Wesley So, Magnus, they're so good. Even when a pawn down, they know what to play for. And yeah, I would love to just leap over the white knight with this bishop, plant it on D5, but David, not legal, unfortunately.
You mentioned that. I mean, we have to coordinate the white pieces here, right? And it's very hard to find squares to them. I was wondering if you could leap in with the knight into the center of the board, and if Black's rook comes in, then you go rook D3. Something like this. You have to get those pieces working as White. Another problem that I guess Eduardo's got in this position is just harder for him to play, right? Black's position is very easy to play, and White's position, I mean, I'm just trying to find moves that you can actually do here, and it's not easy. So that's why I was trying to activate the knight like that, open the bishop up. But I don't
love
know,
it, Simon.
maybe.
If you get one more move, plant the bishop on this beautiful square on d5, then suddenly you start hitting weaknesses as well. And yeah, just this resource, I was skeptical because of rook d2, but I love it, rook d3. And the whole idea is if black takes a pawn, then there might be some infiltration on the back rank.
Yeah, I mean, if that doesn't work, it's a terrible idea. But, if it does work, then somehow, then I don't know. But maybe it doesn't quite work, that check.
He's got to do something now because Tanya's 17th piece is yelling at us, saying, hey.
Touching the 3-minute mark.
Hey.
It's time to make a move. Does it surprise you that Eduardo went for this position with a queen trade in a must-win situation? Do you think he rushed with that?
It's a really good question in hindsight because maybe he, like Wesley, evaluated the compensation correctly. Maybe Eduardo underestimated the compensation, right? Because all he's done since the queens have left the board is think.
Yeah.
And he's realizing, well, crap, like, what do I do here, right? What am I going to do? And I almost like Simon's idea of 95 just for the sake of acknowledging that he's in a must-win situation. Go 95, maybe rook d3, maybe bishop d5 next to go after f7, right? Because otherwise, you take another 2 minutes off the clock for both players, and you really like Wesley's chances.
And Danny, there's a must-answer question in front of us. Why does Danny not wear the pawn costume for this? Is it coming up for the final?
You know, doing commentary in the pawn costume has never been done. It's never been done. I like that request.
Can we get it for tomorrow?
But, by the way, that thing is so heavy, and you can't travel with it. It like literally, so it takes we have to box it up and ship it a month in advance. It's not something you throw on the plane in your carry-on. It's not possible. It's as big as it looks.
Did you see when David dressed up as, was it Tinky Winky?
Oh,
I'm not exactly sure the
Cage
name
match.
of
Green pawn versus Tinky Winky. All right, we've got h3 and g4. At least it was a plan.
Yeah, all pawns on light squares. A bit slow. I think Iturrizaga just spent, 3-4 minutes there and came up with a blank. He just decided, okay, actually, I can't see a way to improve my pieces without allowing black's pieces in. So he decides to push pawns, control some squares. He stopped the black light square bishop from coming out to some active posts. But other than that, it's a bit mysterious. It feels like he's, again, just throwing the move back, kind of delaying the tension. Again, this will come down to a bit of a time scramble. It always seems to. But yeah, he's just hoping that black can't improve in the meantime. Okay, how about plans for Wesley So? We talked about what white can try. Nothing was too convincing there. How does Wesley keep the compensation going?
I wonder if he can just play tickle. A little bishop c5 action. Go rook c3, bishop back to b4. I don't know, I mean, that he has to do much because white has done exactly what with h3 and g4?
Yeah, not much.
Oh, wow, rook a5. Now he's saying, I'm going to be a little more aggressive.
Where's that rook headed?
Tickle. Maybe he's going to start pushing on the king side. White's given him some targets, maybe h5, something like that. Switch focus. Black's got only long-range pieces, the rooks and bishops.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Good old Harry coming out the bag. Don't know what accent that was, but, but I like this move because also I think Wesley's saying, okay, well, white's not doing anything, so I don't need to do anything myself except improve those pieces which are really not activated. And okay, so now we maybe see, is there an idea yet that white has generated? I still can't see an idea from white. And in this position, we have an exchange.
Yeah, he was just, again, it's tickling every move. He was just
now he's going to play h5. I think Harry's a real boy or a real wizard. I'm confusing Pinocchio and Lord of the Rings, apparently.
It's a real move in this position. You've got the two bishops. You want to open up and try and create as many weaknesses as you can in your opponent's pawn structure. Will Wesley try to push for more? And he does it. Harry the H-pawn.
He does it. We called it. I mean, no, David called it. He said rook a5. I spied with my little eye a little Harry pawn on h7.
Yeah, it's just beautiful, these top players. They make it look so natural, just kind of switching all focus from queenside suddenly to kingside in the space of 2 moves. But yeah, this is why they're so good, and it is Iturrizaga ready. This is going to cause him to think again. There's no easy decisions here for white. Either you take this h-pawn off the board and wreck your own pawn structure, black's rook, allowing it as well to swing over, or you find something creative and tactical. Nothing obvious at all for white.
Time is ticking down as well. I mean, he's going to get to that situation where he's going to be under a minute very shortly. And as good as he plays quickly, it's going to be a struggle because you don't have an easy position to play. I think that's the real problem that white has here. Black's position is much easier to play. White's playing kind of awkward-looking moves. And, OK, he moves his rook to defend that pawn, but, again, there's not really any activity that white can get at the moment with his pieces.
I just want to point out, that was some top-class chess that we just saw by Wesley, right? He does this rook lift on one side of the board, and at first you're like, where is that rook headed? But the idea is on the other side of the board, the king side. He goes for this push with the h-pawn, creating an additional weakness for white now. Always got to watch out. The rook is tied down to defend that light-squared pawn on g4, and Wesley's rooks are getting active. The bishops are active. How does Eduardo survive this with 40 seconds?
It's an amazing point, Tanya. In fact, what Wesley did with this rook idea in h5 was develop the bishop on c8. Because as you point out, the rook on e4 is now tied to g4. So that bishop on c8 is playing a major part in this position now. And I really think that's a great point. Every one of Wesley's pieces are to be preferred, really. I mean, the rook on e4, I guess, optically looks okay, but actually he's kind of he's serving a donkey's task there, holding down that pawn. So
what do we think of this, though? The rook was a bit clumsy on e4. Now he's switched across. Maybe some ideas of his own. I like this from Iturrizaga, threatening maybe g5. There is a pin. Remember, the black king is not entirely comfortable either. Yeah, both players just playing great chess. You've got to praise them both. 34 seconds, though, I do fear. And, OK, there is a target, first of all, on f2.
Yep.
Not easy to defend that one.
And if the knight jumps over, black's other rook will come into the game on the second rank. So he does go over with the knight and the rook arrives.
No, sorry, this is analysis. Sorry.
David, don't do that to us.
Just showing your ideas.
I just lost my blood pressure just dropped. I need a snack.
He did play rook f1.
Everything's fine,
He played the best move. Covering this book. Sorry.
That really scared us. I was in your boat, Tanya. Although I will say, we should be ready for that moment because Wesley has kind of lulled us to sleep with this calm, tenacious defense. He's really put himself in a great spot. Eduardo's down to 25 seconds. Don't be surprised if Eduardo does blunder because he's running out of time.
I wish I had control of the computer. I'd have so much fun with you guys. after that reaction, I'd be dropping pieces every other minute just to get you going there.
I didn't do it on purpose, I promise.
Well, David, crafty. And well, this seems like white. Does an exchange help here? I mean, maybe not because the white pawn is also very weak. It's going to be so hard to win this, right?
15 seconds.
If you could somehow put that white g-pawn back on g3, maybe you have some good winning chances. But yeah, weaknesses everywhere and rooks off the board. Simon, you might have been a prophet here. I do foresee a position where the rooks disappear. Opposite colour bishops could happen later on.
Could be, yeah.
I love when you say "I do foresee." Will you say that again?
I do foresee.
That just sounds so prophetic. It just sounds powerful.
Pathetic or prophetic.
I do foresee.
I do foresee a future where.
I'm talking about Harry Potter too much. I think it's been contagious.
It sounds like we're on our travel to Middle Earth. All right, here we go. We got Bishop G4. Obscure bishops are on the agenda, and Wesley we're losing our focus. But this guy,
Eduardo, 6 seconds.
Well, he could now go for that opposite card bishop thing, but there's no need to probably take that knight yet. But, I mean, that would be really excellent drawing chances. But this is much better. Just use the two bishops.
Wesley is playing great. I mean, 3 seconds, but Wesley is all over this.
I think they're both playing very well, to be fair, because white could have easily gone wrong with the pressure he's under here, but he's still finding moves that are keeping him in the game. This is a great move. Centralise the knight to the middle. You do have that extra pawn, so, Wesley can go wrong, and you can convert that pawn still. It's still game on.
David, do you think Wesley should have taken f3 when he had the chance?
I think maybe.
Yeah, opposite bishop was an opportunity. He didn't take it.
But not anymore, and there's no way that Eduardo can repeat this position. He has to find another square for the rook. What is he doing?
No, he already did, because now it's obscured bishops and Wesley's in control.
And there is no other square for the rook. He had to go for this line to avoid repetition.
I didn't even realize it, but yeah, that repetition was forced. Oh, Wesley wants more. He's pointing out that rook d3 is the best move. He's going to get a draw.
Oh, he has to keep attacking the bishop. Like you say, Danny, that would have been the third time the position repeated. So Iturrizaga's had to choose something different.
But now in the trade, the rook won't be guarding f2, which is why that was such a subtly nice move by Wesley. Rook d2, rook g4, bishop c5. He gains a tempo.
Yeah, I think that would most likely lead to a draw. But can Wesley force the issue? OK, this is what we're going for.
But yeah, he's going to do it.
Yeah. That white b-pawn is going to drop as well. Hey.
Yeah, it's
King e7 first, likely, or even king f7. You're not really worried about the check anymore.
I mean, white's got the extra pawn, but it is pretty irrelevant in this position. I mean, for those of you at home, I mean, the opposite card, bishop's most drawish reputation. I love the statement by Spassky. I've said it before, but I remember when he got divorced and he said about his wife and him, he said, we're just like bishops on opposite colour squares. We were never connected and just going past each other all the time.
That's great.
It was a great saying. And I mean, white still has that pawn, but he's got to keep his rook on the board. If the rooks come off, they can just shake hands. So he's doing the best he can. But Wesley's played so well up to this point.
That's good news for Eduardo that he's placing all his pieces on light squares. The king will move forward to defend that bishop so that the rook can be free, but it's not going to be enough. He's playing against Chesley, so solid. Gives a check right now, frees up the bishop. But this one looks like it will end in a draw, which is 4 seconds on the clock. This could be Eduardo's last few seconds in the Aimchess Rapid.
He keeps making moves with 1 second left.
Yeah.
Just the brinkmanship there is impressive.
I know another player who used to do that all the time. Again,
Sorry, Simon.
Yeah, you get.
At this point, I was going to say rook d1 is really strong because here comes rook g1.
Oh, big threat.
And
Danny.
king e5 is next. And the white king is actually entering a little bit of a mating net. Okay, he plays e6 with tempo, but...
he's coming, that black king.
Yeah, he's going to play king e5. And when the king comes up, he'll be pushed to the edge of the board. So again, it should be a draw. I'm pointing out that Wesley is being ruthless here.
Yeah, black's bishop has just been perfect the whole game. And, OK, there he goes. He kicks the white bishop away. Black's bishop just controls the advance of white's pawns. It's cut across the whole board. And, yeah, I think the best white can hope for is to trade off those rooks at this point. I would be scared of getting checkmated. That white king looks so lonely there, vulnerable to some checks.
You have to keep them on, though, don't you? I mean, a loss is the same as a draw, so you have to keep the rooks on the board and hope that something turns up. But
I think this is the end of it.
Yes.
There's nothing that Eduardo can do to avoid rook h1 check.
He'll play king h2. No, he won't.
And
It'll be a
that's
draw right here.
Yeah.
And there we have it. Wesley So beats Eduardo Iturrizaga, goes on to the losers final to meet Nodirbek Abdusattorov, and Wesley there relieved with his performance. Eduardo Iturrizaga, what a fantastic run he had at the Aimchess Rapid, but it's this man right now who's got reasons to be proud of a crazy game in game 1 and then keeping it solid and in control in round 2. And this was a fairy tale story, but it does come to an end for Eduardo Iturrizaga. What a match that was. Wesley So one step closer to that grand final against Magnus Carlsen. He will be facing Nodirbek Abdusattorov next. A strategic fight, this one, David.
Yeah, strategic battle, and both players played extremely well. We've got to commend Iturrizaga on a great fight, but ultimately Wesley So just too solid. And it was this position where we would actually thought that objectively Wesley had gone wrong as black, but finding compensation for the pawn that is doomed on c3, he came up with a really instructive maneuver, developing these pieces, especially this rook on a8, without needing to move it. a5 was the key, and this was really instructive. After a4, black actually had fantastic compensation. Look at the power of this dark squared bishop, which actually sat there pretty much until the end of the game. In the end, Iturrizaga kept his pawn, but wasn't able to win.
Fantastic endgame there, a play there by Wesley So. Let's take a look at our bracket, and we are reaching the finish line at the Aimchess Rapid. Wesley So advances in the loser semi-final. Nodirbek Abdusattorov has been waiting for the winner of this match to play in the losers final, and that is coming up next. It's a match that we've seen before, and it happened on Day 1 of the Aimchess Rapid. It was Nodirbek who took that win. Is this going to be a grudge match for Wesley?
I think it is a grudge match, and I think he's going to get his revenge. If you were watching, Wesley was up by a game, let it get away from him. But sometimes you need to start slow in order to find your form, and Wesley has gotten better with every single match since, and I think he's hungry. He's hungry, and he wants a chance at Magnus, and he wants a chance to punch his ticket to Toronto.
And the one player who had an amazing run, put up an amazing fight, but he's now knocked out. Joining us, Eduardo Iturrizaga. Eduardo, how are you?
Hi guys. Thanks. Of course, I'm disappointed because I won a win, but of course was a tough match against Wesley. And I think in the first game I had some chances in the time trouble, but he managed to play well with 10 seconds, and I missed one queen b3, I think, at the end when I played queen c3, and then, okay, so I have some tricks. Maybe he's better, but slightly better, not too much. And with 10 seconds, everything can happen, right? But okay, he controls his nerves more than me, and he deserves it.
Some nice words there. Eduardo, your games are always so much fun to commentate on and so entertaining for the chess fans. Do you enjoy these kind of crazy tactics and playing in these time scrambles?
Yeah, I like a lot. When I was young, like 10, 11 years old, I usually to play 1 minute, but bullet like crazy. But then, 5-6 years ago, I left and I just play some Title Tuesday or these kind of tournaments, like in rapid tournaments, but not bullet. But I just still have some tricks in the bullet game, and I like to. Of course, it's not easy to change our mind when we was playing like 15 minutes, and then we have to play with 10 seconds, 30 or 40 moves more, right? But I really like to play this kind of games, crazy games.
Eduardo, you earned so many fans with this performance, even started with beating Parham Magsulu and everything you did this week. I'm an even bigger fan now. I was already a fan of the chess. I'm an even bigger fan getting to know you as a person. Let me ask you, have you ever considered streaming? And do you want help with that so that fans can see you more? Because I can help you with that. Have you ever thought about that?
Thank you so much. Yeah, but I think if I want to start to streaming or do anything like more than play tournaments is maybe in a few years. Right now, and after this, I want to play a lot and I want to train harder than now to try to play again in Division 1 and to get better, of course, in chess. But thanks for the offer, and if in one moment I want to stream it, I will tell you.
All right, just give me a jingle. Give me a jingle. But seriously, Eduardo, thank you so much, and what an event.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank all the fans for the support. And thanks a lot again for the opportunity.
And
Bye,
Eduardo,
guys.
before you go, you won so many hearts. Tell us, what are you playing next? Where can everyone follow you?
Next week I will play at 24th of July again the play-in. I will try to make it again, and then I will play the World Cup in Baku. So
that's a busy month ahead of you. We wish you all the best, and we look forward to seeing you in the next Champions Chess Tour event.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye, Eduardo. What a performance. What a run there by Eduardo Turizaga, starting from the plains, knocking out Levon Aronian on the way. And what a fight he had, winning so many hearts. An amazing story there. It is the end of the road for him. And we've got a big losers final coming up before we head into the winners bracket tomorrow. And we will be back with all the action as Nodirbek and Wesley are getting ready for their big matchup on the other side of this break.
Basically, it's a tool for improving your chess game. It gives you tailored lessons for different phases of the game, and it seems like a very useful tool.
So again, better than players around your rating?
That's good. It looks like you get a really nice overview over your games and what you need to focus on and what you are good enough at.
To have all my weaknesses black and white on paper is devastating and interesting and fun at the same time.
The middle games are really rough, and Aimchess said it to me again. So.
And that is definitely the most popular move there.
Today I actually learned a few tricks in the opening that I love to play, so I got some tips from Simon.
If you're a beginner, it will pick out kind of the basic things you need to improve on. And also advanced players is very detailed at getting straight in, working out if your openings work, if your tactics, and giving you some personalised lessons. So it's pretty broad, pretty much everyone. And Aimchess was great at finding out that nearly everyone we had, their endings were actually very bad. So they need to work on that area of the game.
To be honest, I think Aimchess can help everyone. It's helped me, especially improve in the opening, realise my strengths and weaknesses there, and in the endgame, where actually I thought I was very good, but it pointed out areas that I could work on.
If you want to improve on anything from start and opening to endgames, any level can do Aimchess, I suppose.
Improve faster with Aimchess, your personalized coach, and you can get your first month free with code CCT at go.chess.com/Aimchess. So head over for your Aimchess analytics, and it's forever faster with Puma, our cool lifestyle partners, making our players and commentators look so good all the time. And here's what happened when Magnus Carlsen and Christian Pulisic had a little chess and football crossover.
In chess, there are sort of two main strategies. There are people who just play the same openings every single time. They're basically just saying, yeah, I trust in my prep, I trust in my strategies. There are others who try and adjust it more. And frankly, I like both.
That's a part of football as well. There's some prep, potentially what your opponent could do, what kind of your plan going into the game, how you want to attack, how you want to defend, how you want to press.
Football games, chess games, they're just being decided by really avoidable errors.
A big part of football, I think, is taking care of your body, doing the right amount of training, but also not killing yourself and tiring yourself out. Especially during this end part of the season, it's all about recovery and just making sure that your body feels as close to 100% once the games come around.
I certainly cannot match that. If you sleep well, then usually the tournament goes well because you have less worries and such. I never really had heroes. There are a lot of players in both fields that I admire immensely.
Well, one of my favorite players growing up was Luis Figo. I obviously love watching the Ronaldo, Messi kind of rivalry unfold. They've been so fun to watch for so long. I don't know a ton about the chess world, but I've definitely just followed Magnus's path. He's definitely top of the list for me. I'm definitely an attacking player who just likes to be creative and likes to put defenders on their back foot and just kind of keep them guessing. That's the kind of the style I like. I like to be very aggressive, very direct towards goal. So that's definitely my style.
In football, it's easy. I'm terrible. Chess, I would say, pretty universal, but definitely leaning towards positional rather than tactical play.
The games that I play, it's just about not making that critical error. I guess for me, chess is also quite simple. Yeah, having your own Puma shoe is pretty special, so I'm definitely proud of it. And yeah, I'm excited for fans to be able to pick these up.
The shoes are really stylish. I love the look, and I'm excited for future and for people to experience them.
Magnus, here are your CP Puma boots.
Here are my signature shoes.
I'm gonna wear them out of here.
Yeah,
so.
This is good stuff.
Magnus and Christian there with their Puma shoes and looking very good there. Magnus mentioned he's terrible at football. What would be his football rating, David?
About 800. No, I'm joking. Magnus is really good. He's being modest there. And I saw those two have a kickabout afterwards. I was actually the one interviewing. And yeah, Magnus was able to keep up in some of the, the keepy-uppies, the football drills they had. So I think both were impressed with the other side's specialities there.
So cool. And Magnus also said that he doesn't have a hero, but well, he's been a hero to a whole generation of chess players. One of them now his biggest rival, and he will be in action. Nodirbek Abdusattorov comes back for the losers final against Wesley. So, Simon, what are you expecting with this one?
A great match, as simple as that. I mean, they have fought off, as we know, earlier on, but Wesley was not in good form, and I think Danny mentioned he's going to be looking for revenge now. So this will be a really high-quality, exciting match, and I think we're going to get everything we want.
Yeah, and here we see the Aimchess stats between these two as they aim to fight off against Magnus tomorrow. And yeah, we see impressive numbers. Maybe the biggest differences come in advantage capitalization. Nodirbek extremely good there with the killer instinct. Overall, his accuracy is pretty close to Wesley as well. And we've talked about how Wesley's one of the most accurate players out there. Impressive numbers, Danny.
Yeah, it is. It's super impressive. And the information behind the stats, too, one interesting point I want to point out is that sometimes right now these stats are favoring the lower-rated player in advantage capitalization over the higher-rated. There's a reason for that. These are run on their most recent 100 rapid games. You know who Wesley So is playing more often in his last 100 rapid games? Players like Magnus Carlsen, players like Fabiano Caruana. So I'm just pointing out a little bit of the game behind the stats because we see chat talking about it. It doesn't take anything away from the stats. I think it's fascinating, but it points out Nodirbek is getting good points because he's beating the people he's supposed to beat. And that doesn't take anything away from 93%. But it also doesn't mean that Wesley doesn't convert his advantages. He might just get less of them, and the advantages may not be as big. So, again, I look at those numbers and say, very, very close matchup on paper. There's a reason the last one went to Armageddon, and we're in for a treat.
And in the very first event of the Champions Chess Tour Season 23 in the Everything's Masters, Wesley did make it to the winners' final. But it was Hikaru Nakamura who took that match and eliminated Wesley. So this is his second shot at getting to that winners' final for Nodirbek Abdusattorov, for Magnus Carlsen. They're already into Toronto. They've made it. They punched their ticket. Is Wesley the one who's feeling the pressure right now?
I think that's another reason why I'm picking him, not just because it's hard to beat someone twice, and the last one went to Armageddon. Wesley's also a stronger player still at this point in Nodirbek's career. I do believe that. But I think Wesley's motivation is there, and he knows that he needs to punch his ticket directly by winning an event, because I don't know that his Grand Prix points are going to get him there.
And the players are ready to go for this big losers final to play against Magnus Carlsen in the Aimchess Rapid Grand Final. And there we have them on camera. What do you think Nodirbek's been up to today? Has he been following the action, preparing? What did he get up to?
I think a mix of those, a bit of chilling, bit of prepping. Maybe he had us on in the background. Some of the players do. We've seen Fabi tune in from time to time. But yeah, he would have had half an eye maybe on the Wesley game, but he would have known big match either way. And he'll be ready. There we go. E4 to start this one off.
Simon, your thoughts on the body language there?
Well, back to the expert on body language, as always. And they're both quite cagey. Their hands are hiding something, maybe hiding their preparation. But you see that Wesley's hand is a little bit lower.
Oh.
And there you go, the first surprise. Wesley, head in his hands, a little laugh. He's clearly shocked there. And it's 1-0 to
Nodirbek with a little smile as well.
Let's talk about why. Let's talk about why. If anyone missed Nodirbek's demolishing of Levon Aronian, shame on you. You should check it out. But he played a dubious opening that Nodirbek himself said. Remember, guys, that he's like, look, that opening's objectively lost for White. No, meaning what he did, but he crushed Aronian. Now he's playing another opening that is objectively dubious. We weren't wrong in terms of how we evaluated it, but it's full of traps and full of tricks. Yeah. And Wesley's like, you saw the reaction. He's like, oh, crap, here we go. Like, what has this kid got in store with some sort of magical preparation?
Love it.
We talked about the English opening, the Dutch defense, the French. This is the Portuguese opening, and you nearly never hear about it because it's so rare. It hits thin air, this bishop.
I love that he's...
And Wesley can't stop reacting.
He's laughing.
He's laughing. He can't believe this move. It's usually played on the third move, but this time on the second move. Is this psychological warfare by Nodirbek?
I mean, this is like the drunken Raul Lopez, isn't it? It's like you've played it on the wrong move. It's like, oh, hang on, I haven't got my night out yet. What have I done? It's the kind of thing, 10-point Raul Lopez.
How many times have you played the drunken Raul Lopez?
I've never played Raul Lopez, actually, which is weird, but I've done the other thing very well over the course of my life. But yeah, it's a strange move because it's basically saying to black, OK, attack me. I mean, again, if a pupil, I don't really teach anymore, but if a pupil of mine had played this move, I'd be like, you can't play a move like this.
He's laughing.
Wow.
He can't keep it together.
He's like, I'm surprised. And Wesley also, I think, can see him on camera because Wesley's like, oh, like, you're laughing, I'm laughing.
But Wesley's also burning his clock right now. And it's going to be pretty funny. Wesley develops the knight, Nodirbek takes out the kingside knight, and we have a Roy Lopez, a Spanish, but Wesley's burnt 2 minutes on the clock.
It's very weird because, yeah, I mean, you're asking black to attack your bishop, aren't you? I mean, like, you move a piece into your opponent's half of the board. The first thing generally your opponent does is kick that piece away. But this time, I don't know, David, the Portuguese variation, I mean, it just looks weird to me, but I love it. And I love the way that he's got Wesley thinking on move 2. How often do you get Wesley thinking on move 2? And he might still be able to play the King's Gambit. I'd love to see that F-pawn go. I'm going to get excited if that F-pawn moves. Whoa, come on.
OK, by the way, Wesley did play the objectively best move according to Chess.com's opening explorer. C6 scores 64% for black. So C6 scores 64% for black. So he did play the best move, although now after bishop A4, there's a number of moves here for black, including knight F6, including D6, and we'll see.
They probably score so highly for black because no strong white players play this opening.
That's probably fair.
But I've got to say, I think this is only the second time in my entire life I've seen the Portuguese opening, first of all, but also it's the first time in 3 years of commentating on the Champions Chess Tour that I've seen both players laughing like that so early in a game. Sometimes at the end of the game, OK, there was that bomb cloud incident between Magnus and Hikaru, but wow, bishop b5, and Wesley's still smiling. Tanya, talking about burning minutes, he's down to 11 already and still making faces like that one. d5, lashing out.
OK, that's...
Shakes his head, raises his eyebrows, makes a move. He's definitely not part of the prep for Wesley, but now we know what Nodirbek was up to this morning.
It's a good move, by the way, because if we want to show that e takes d5, normally it would be frowned upon to bring your queen out into the center. But in this case, after e takes d5, queen takes d5, if you attack the queen, you've left something at home with this whole Portuguese variation, right? If knight c3, queen takes g2, and as Simon's shirt would say,
it would say, just resign, my friends. Just resign.
Just resign. Your computer's in the way.
It is, yeah. OK, there we go.
Do it again.
Thanks, Danny.
Do it again. No one saw that. It's OK.
There we go.
No
just resign.
Okay, great.
And
good.
There's another... Wait, Simon, get ready to show it again. There's another trap in the position. This pawn is attacked if you block with your knight.
Oh, I love it.
Oh. Whoops. Check, and now you regret developing your bishop so early.
Wow.
This bishop falls off next move.
There's some tricky things there, aren't there? Just resign. There he goes again. Yeah, get it in there. And I mean, but I like what Wesley's done, right? Because you could be like, OK, my opponent's played a weird line. I'm a little bit scared about their preparation. I'm going to do a sideline. But he's like, no, I'm going to play the most critical moves. Your Portuguese is just rubbish. What are you doing? You can't do this against me. I'm Wesley the Great, so I'm going to test you out by playing good moves, right? So I like it. It's challenging, right? Challenging.
Yeah, I'm not sure either of these players played the Portuguese or speak Portuguese at this point, just judging by the clock times. Clearly, the home cooking's gone a bit wrong.
Wow. And Simon, you said that Wesley's responded with the most critical moves on the board, attacking the bishop, playing for the center. Nodirbek going into a think after that. Is that surprising?
It's weird. Why is he thinking now?
No, but I agree with what you said and Tanya's follow-up, because I was going to highlight the same thing, that when you face an opening like this from your opponent, it's easy to get nervous and then try to think of bailing out, right? Wesley laughed. Yes, he was nervous, and then Nodirbek laughed. But you know what he did in the end? He tried to play what objectively would seem to be the most principled thing to do. He's like, it makes sense that I should play c6 and I should go for the center because that's how I would punish a bishop who's left the g2 pawn behind in those lines we were showing. So I'm applauding Wesley regardless of the fact that he had to use 3.5 minutes to get there. I think he took the most principled approach, and I'm guessing that it might pay off given how we're seeing Nodirbek react.
And I've just seen, I was thinking knight f3 would be interesting. That was another way to lose a piece there. But OK, I mean, we see probably the most logical move, drawing out the black queen, and it's like a zooped-up Scandinavian maybe as well. I mean, you know, still, I don't know what's going on after knight f3 here, though. That could. Oh yes, I do know what's going on. You've already shown me that trick. I've already lost that piece already. So, queen f3. That's a bit sad. that move, isn't it? It's a little bit sad.
Cats loving this, by the way. And they said that I love the comments that are coming in. Both players hilariously forget about their clock and lose on time. People are going to start trying the Portuguese now.
Yeah, shout out to John Bartholomew. This is the new Scandinavian, clearly.
Yeah.
Looking good for black right now. And yeah, a queen trade isn't going to give white the advantage, but he needed to do it. There were just too many traps, too many tricks in the position. And we see Nodirbek frown for the first time in this game because his home cooking doesn't taste as good as he was hoping. We have 3.
Sounds like my cooking.
And my side. Yeah, don't worry. We have that in common, I think, most chess players.
Black can do a number of things here. Principled moves, knight f6, get developed. Probably even developing the light square bishop would work. The dark square bishop, don't do that because that would hang the queen. The pawn is pinned. That's actually pretty funny to show, like if you play bishop c5, just for fun. The pawn is pinned. I don't know why that cracks me up. It's been a long week, apparently. That's a chess joke for you.
Yeah, I can safely say we won't see bishop c5 on the board, but yeah, it feels like Wesley is going to allow the trade of queens. You don't really want to step her away. You lose a lot of time. That's why kind of bringing queens out so early is frowned upon. If you start running away too much, you lose a lot of tempi. But I was going to say he's going to do it on his own terms, and he says no. Okay, not bishop c5. Sorry, that was my analysis. Instead, he does trade off, and okay, a bit surprising to me. This pawn now attacked. If you step it forward, you might well run into some problems. This pawn would be attacked. There might be ideas against the f7 pawn. His whole idea was to play this move, a sneaky move, and maybe he's going after this white bishop. Not the best piece in the world. And yeah, roughly balanced, would we say? Still life left, despite the absence of queens.
White's pretty well developed here, right? I mean, you could... Is the pawn in the middle strong or weak? That's something I'm wondering. I mean, it takes some space, but it could also be a target. The rook's going to give it a little probe, and the pawn's going to come up. Or should we say nibble? Should we get the rabbit out again? Give it a little nibble and nibble. But yeah, I mean, it looks fairly even, I guess, right?
Yeah, a lot of life left though. I quite like just the fact that it is relatively imbalanced, despite the queens being off this early.
It's a queenless middle game with all the minor pieces on the board, everything to play for. But that long think by Nodirbek going into this position with the queen trades, what are the chances that he had this position in his prep?
I think less now. I mean, just given that he's used time. I mean, remember what happened against Levon Aronian, right? He was playing on the board, winning, playing on the clock and winning. I think he objectively knows this type of position was possible, right? When you play a dubious opening, but I don't think he's thrilled or was spending a lot of time hoping for this position.
Yeah, it's interesting because Wesley's third move, d5, it's pretty much the whole idea of the Portuguese opening is to stop that move, and he just played the move that shouldn't work, that White is trying to fight against, and yeah, it feels like that surprised Abdusattorov. So maybe just a kind of a lapse in preparation there, which is rare from these top players, but occasionally they forget to check certain moves. And yeah, it feels like, just judging by the use of time now, he's definitely not ready in this position. Wesley stepping forward, I've got to say, slightly surprising. It looks like this pawn can be pinned if White's rook just slides over one side.
I want to show that because that's, I think, the really key point is that if rook e1, yes, the pawn is pinned, but you don't try to defend it. You play bishop e7 because I'm coming back to your idea, David.
Oh, wow.
If you take it,
lovely.
I have knight c5.
This is actually similar to the last game we saw Wesley play, right? I mean, even if White can hold on to the pawn, which he might not be able to, you get the two bishops, he probably can't hold on to it anyway here, right?
White's rook lacks squares along the fourth rank.
I really love the way Wesley's playing this because, you know, you could be scared and you could be like, OK, I'm just going to equalise. But he's actually trying to really punish Nodirbek and play the most critical moves. And it's a great lesson for anyone out there who wants to improve. Always try to play the most critical moves. I mean, it's just a very simple little rule. The most challenging moves for your opponent, because you will get better, even if they backfire occasionally. It's a great way to beat better players and improve your chess. So, and that's what Wesley's doing here, playing a risky yet very challenging move.
And we've been seeing that narrative by Wesley, playing concrete chess and sort of just destabilizing the position and going in for these complications. And it's paying off. I'm still thinking about that second move by Nodirbek, taking his bishop out to b5. And if it was part of the bigger strategy of his opening plan, which it clearly was, in some ways it reminds me of what Magnus has been doing early on in the opening, playing these offbeat openings, 1a6, just trying out these different things. Is this Nodirbek just saying, I don't want to get Wesley into an opening battle, just get a position and play it out?
I think so, yeah. But I also think he was, if we're talking about the reason Nodirbek played Bishop B5, I think he was hoping to catch Wesley maybe in a trap like he did against Levon. I think he was, look, I mean, similar to what we talked about the other day about how top players are willing to take on positions that aren't even that great as long as they know them, because we know that computers have told us you can play anything now. So I think it's worth the gamble. It's worth the gamble. Maybe he wins a miniature, and if he doesn't, is he objectively in a great position here as white? No, but a position's fine. I mean, even with how Wesley's played. So I think he played it for the gamble, not even for the end game or throwing Wesley off. I think he wanted a chance for a miniature.
And now he's got less time than Wesley on the clock.
Yeah.
Yeah. Already tricks. We've seen it already with these tactics, as Danny pointed out. And yeah, actually, if you hadn't told me or hadn't shown me that Aronian game a few days ago, I would have said this was just a mind fart. He just wanted to play the Spanish opening. In the wrong order.
The drunken Spanish.
Drunken Spanish. But yeah, it's a gamble, but we can't say it's failed yet. It just hasn't kind of reaped the rewards that he was hoping for.
Body language expert coming in. Sai, we saw that little shake of head by Wesley. What's he thinking? Is he mad at Nodirbek for this opening choice?
I think you can see from his leaning in language and his staring at the screen that he's now recovered from the initial shock, as any good person would do. And he's looking off to the side there. He's thinking, yeah, that was a bit cheeky of Nodirbek, but I'm now back on top. He's leaning back, showing satisfaction in his position and relaxation. He's taken a deep breath there just to calm himself, and he realises that he is actually now in a pretty stable and good position. Now, Nodirbek, on the other hand, sorry, Danny,
I just say that, like, if anyone tuned into the show for the first time, right as Tanya said, let's bring in the body language expert, and then Simon just delivered on that. They're literally here thinking, wait, is he the body language expert? Like, those are the chess experts, and that's why you're here, is because you are the body language expert.
I'm the body language expert. Forget about the chess. I will pull out all the body language.
You delivered, man.
Thank you. Blagging is what we say in England. And okay, rook E1's played. So this is where Wesley has this very interesting move you mentioned, Danny, of just
Bishop E7.
Yeah.
I think we don't know yet, but
yeah. It looks quite scary for white, this position, because knight C5 is actually a pretty big move, and if you can somehow maintain that pawn in the middle, white's going to struggle to develop. So white's in a lot more danger of getting in trouble in this position than black is. I mean, even if black loses that pawn, he's going to get compensation always. So a bit scary, no? This position for white, I feel.
I'm watching chat here, David, and people want to know why F5 doesn't work here for black. Maybe we should
Good call.
Go to
Good
the
question.
analysis board and show them.
Let's jump in, and there are various tempting moves here for black. This pawn is attacked, and of course it's pinned, so it cannot move. The black king behind it. If you defend this pawn, if you back it up immediately with your own pawn, then I think white is simply
E3.
going to
That's
push.
what I thought.
And now the extra pressure on this pawn, white's pieces have opened up. You haven't necessarily gained anything as black. You've only weakened yourself with F5. And yes, you can continue defending your pinned pawn in the center, but eventually it will most likely fall off. For example, knight to C3. And this pawn is now more of a weakness than it is a strength, which in the game we think it is. So with a clever move such as bishop to E7 that was pointed out by Danny, you can kind of indirectly defend this pawn due to this double attack, one of the most typical tactics in chess. And this looks like it pays off for black. Another move you could consider is a dual-purpose move, kind of defending the pawn with your knight and attacking the white bishop. I think this is kind of the way up right now. Do you play knight c5, or do you just save it up your sleeve for later?
It's funny that black has no threat after knight c5. It's quite weird, right? Because you take the bishop, you lose the pawn. It's peculiar, right?
Yeah,
so.
For example, here, double attack again. All sorts of tricks in this opening, and it's only move, 8 now.
Yeah,
crazy stuff.
Very peculiar.
Only move 8, and both players have used half their time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of time, and the action is just getting started on this one, and this is clearly new territory for Nodirbek as well, even though he was the one to come up with a move that shocked us all in the commentary studio here. And Wesley now reaching the 7-minute mark, deciding how does he defend the pawn or leave it hanging with all these tactics that you're pointing out. What's the move that you think he's going to go for here? Will he develop that bishop? Is that in Wesley's style?
The longer he thinks, the more I'm inclined to say he's going to go for Danny's move to block this pin with black's dark squared bishop. But yeah, I mean, if it was a blitz game, you kind of automatically, instinct-wise, just play knight c5. It looks natural. You attack a piece, you defend your pawn. But yeah, the fact that he's spent nearly 3 minutes now means he's looking for something clever. The top players only pause when there's something kind of difficult that they're considering.
Both players taking their time on every single move there. And while they do that, we'll wait for Wesley to respond to this threat on the board. We've also got our eyes and ears. Keti Satsalashvili with Division 2 updates. Keti, what happened in the winners' final?
Tanya, no one wants to go home, but as Simon says, they already play from home. So they're playing actually a lot of very nice games, but they're just ending in a draw. In fact, Denis Lazovic and Sam Savian, they played one of the games for 150 moves. I thought they would never end that game, but they ended that game and they started another. They are now in the fourth game. So far, the result is equal. And as I mentioned earlier, very likely we're going to see Armageddon in the Division 2. And another result, we have Martinez kicked out Garakamsky, and now he's facing Akovian, and they also have 3 draws so far, and we still don't know who is the leader in the second division.
Wow, that's so cool, and especially 150 moves between Dan Laz and Sam Savian. If that did go down to the wire, Keti, is there a favorite there?
But no, they are equally good. They both have their good games, and in the end, it turns out to be a draw. So looking forward to the Armageddon.
Let's hope we've got the Armageddon fun in the Division 2 as well. And you can catch it all on Chess Dojo's channel or chess.com/events. How much would it mean for these youngsters, Danny, to get that 10K and to book their spot in Division 1?
I mean, 10K is a lot of money already. I think Division 1 is what everyone wants, right? I mean, Nodirbek punched his ticket. Not that we're surprised. He's a former World Rapid champion, as Magnus reminded me, but one of the best players in the world in Rising. But I mean, did we think for sure he would be there? No, right? And he won the Chess Kid Cup. So I think that anyone has a chance as long as they make it to Division 1.
And Fabi punched his ticket to Division 1 by winning Division 2 as well.
That's right. That's right. And so Division 2 is maybe the fastest route. Avoid the play-in, right, which is a bit of a gamble, and we know it can be super tough, especially if you look at the last play-in, where it felt like every single player in the world was there. So, I mean, it's definitely a big deal to win Division 2.
It was Magnus who said that the play-ins for this Champions Chess Star season, they're a lot of fun to watch, but not so much fun to play in.
Yeah, they're an absolute nightmare adrenaline fest to try to play in the play-in. Anyway, if you get to Division 1, it's worth it.
Absolutely. So there is a lot on the line. We'll keep checking in with Keti for updates on the big matchups in the other 2 divisions. And now we've got moves on this one. It is the direction that we were expecting, David.
Yeah, it's the direction we were predicting here. And Danny, you'll move on the board. Bishop e7, clever stuff. And Nodirbek, he's had to put his knight in the centre, a bit of an awkward square. White's bishop still hanging in the air there on a4. It feels like somehow this is turning in Black's favour. But again, the clock time might be decisive. I'm surprised to see Wesley think now. It looks like he's got a very natural move, just bringing out his undeveloped knight and getting castled. I'm really confused as to what Abdusattorov is doing next, to be honest. It feels to me like Abdusattorov coming in fresh with this nice opening idea. He's come up against Wesley, who's just in the zone after his match earlier today. It feels like Wesley's built up this head of steam. What do you think? I would choose Black here. Simon, Danny, thoughts?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think Black's got a very nice position. I mean, he's going to take that bishop, the light square bishop, at any moment, and that will give him the bishop pair. The pawn on e4 is maybe the only thing which is of a little concern. I mean, if you don't lose that pawn, you can have more space. It's kind of like a fawn in White's position. Is stopping White from developing. And OK, an interesting move here. Just developing the bishop, maybe getting ready to castle, stopping any tricks on c6. But it just looks like Black's got a much easier position to play. How does White develop those queenside pieces, Danny? I mean, the rook on a1, the bishop on c1. How do you get them into the game? It's not easy.
I really like that move, pointing out that the knight on c3 is stuck to guarding the a4 bishop, right? You can't take the e4 pawn because you lose the bishop, and so let me just accelerate my development while you're stuck fixing these awkward pieces that you started, Nodirbek, with the Portuguese, right? I'm gonna develop and get castled, and maybe I'll play knight f6 next to guard the pawn, but I don't need to. And I love, if you got a rook to d8, the d4 knight is vulnerable, right? So I know the eval bar creeped up a little bit for White. I'm not sure what the best move is here for the engine, but I really like bishop d7. Don't like that he took so much time to do it if I'm in Wesley's corner, but yeah, I'm with you. This is looking good for Black. Maybe White just has to play a move like bishop b3 to kind of force your hand, and then if you take, at least I open the a file. That might be the idea. Okay, yeah, like that might be the thing that prevents castles long. So perhaps bishop b3 will be what we see from Nodirbek.
Yeah, it feels like you have to drop your bishop back sooner or later. It's just hanging on a4 in lots of variations. It's a tactical weakness, so I like it, Danny. Still an issue, as Simon mentioned, with this bishop and this rook behind it. For example, if black just develops and protects this pawn. But that's an issue for later. Just keep your bishop nice and safe. Maybe the idea will be at some point to just get rid of this thorn, as you said, Simon, in order to eventually play d3 and unleash this piece. But yeah, step by step, he's got to move quickly. Both players have just been, yeah, so ponderous at this point.
Yeah. 10 moves and 10 moves for 10 minutes. Not usually a recipe for Rapid.
Absolutely. And it all comes down to that second move. And now this move on the board, what a shocker there. Pushing that pawn, pushing that knight out. So a little aggressive chess here by Nodirbek. I'm just thinking this is such a different dynamic from what we had in the previous match, Eduardo versus Wesley. Absolutely crazy, chaotic chess. And this just feels like a slow strategic fight. Who does that favor, these kind of positions?
Well, I think it would favor Wesley, although I will admit after b4, I think we might be about to heat up because that pawn is now vulnerable. And if black castle's long, there's tactics on the d4 knight. So, yeah, you're right, Johnny. It's been slow. They've been taking their time and strategically trying to navigate this odd opening from Nodirbek, but it might be about to get spicy.
Well, if it's about to get spicy and it's about to heat up, then let's hope that Wesley's got good air quality going on because he's going to need all of that. This position will explode. Meanwhile, this is the puzzle that you have to answer for a chance to win this Airthings device. You can go on Champions Chess Tour Twitter, and it's signed by Magnus. This will be coming your way if you get the answer right. And it's also the same Airthings device that was used by Magnus and David in their Airthings challenge. So go ahead, go on Twitter and try and solve the puzzle. How good was Magnus with the Airthings challenge, David?
He was too good for me, that's for sure. Not just in the game that we played against each other when we were maneuvering pieces, not knowing what they were, essentially blindfold chess, but also in those puzzles. I thought I would confuse him. He didn't know which pieces were which, as we see on that puzzle in front of us as well for the viewers. But yeah, he solved them very quickly.
I'm still thinking, what's going on in that puzzle there?
What is it? I mean, yeah, sorry, I was looking at the board, and that was a puzzle as well, because there was a massive moment where I think black could have grabbed the piece there.
I was looking at the same tactic, Simon. I think black could have played c5.
Yeah, I think that.
Why did he not do that?
I think that was the whole point of this b6 move, was to play c5, attack two knights, win a piece. But I think Wesley took a judgment call and assumed that white would get just too much activity for that, David. I mean, but there was a big moment there. Big moment.
Big moment, and let's rewind back to that. It was b6 on the board. I was about to praise it for being a really sneaky, clever move, and I think Abdusattorov just bluffed. He played rook takes pawn, allowing the win of a piece. Now, c5, as you guys say, would attack this knight and this knight simultaneously, and you can't save them both. Nodirbek here, for sure, had to sacrifice a piece, and I think this was his idea. So now it's 3 pawns for a piece. So technically fine on material, but maybe it was just the fact that this pawn is rolling, the bishop is coming to put pressure on this pinned piece. All of these things scared Wesley. However, objectively, he would have had the advantage. So he was bluffed, and he didn't take up that challenge. Instead, he castled, but simply just down a piece now. And after bishop b2, the same tactic does not work this time, because after c5, I think you can simply take this pawn. And after the knight is captured, suddenly a double attack, hitting this bishop and hitting this bishop. That's been the name of the game so far, all of these doubled attacks in these openings. And
I know that was deep.
The advantage.
I know that was deep analysis, but I think you nailed it as far as why we also just saw Wesley kind of give a little bit of, he went like he missed something, right? And I'm wondering if this is what he missed. Maybe he castled quickly because he thought c5 was possible next, and Nodirbek doubles down on the bluff and now shows that bishop b2 is possible. And just looking at how Wesley responded, and by the way, he's now about to get under 90 seconds.
And Nodirbek has an extra pawn.
Yeah. I think Wesley let that slip.
Yeah, I mean, he's played this very aggressive move f5, David, as well, just to attack that rook. But white has the extra pawn. White has now developed his pieces, which he hadn't done before, and black's behind in development. So it's certainly taken a turn in Nodirbek's favour.
Definitely. It was just that key moment, and Wesley didn't have enough time. That's why we were being slightly kind of questioning or critical of the players spending so much time investing it earlier. They needed it just that moment when things finally did explode.
We talk about that a lot, right? Time management in rapid chess, because if you haven't blundered yet, you probably haven't reached the critical position yet, and so you need your time for later. I really think that whole position where c5 was missed, and we saw Wesley's response, may end up being what we're talking about. And you hope, if you're Wesley's sake, you don't lose this game. You find some way to hold. But this is now he's just down a pawn.
And time management is such a tight rope to walk on because you don't know exactly where you should burn the clock, at what moment you should be thinking, how do you make those fast moves. Automatic decisions are easy to take, but otherwise you just end up spending those minutes and they're gone before you realize it. And I think especially for these formats, for Rapid, a world champion Emanuel Lasker, his advice, if you find a good move, look for a better one, should not be followed.
I think in
That's
Rapid,
bad advice.
I think in Rapid sometimes it's like, if you find a good enough move, hurry up and play it.
If you find a move, play it.
100%.
Yeah, find a move, play it.
I think that rule is really overrated. It's like when you find a good move, try to find a better one. I never follow that one. As soon as I see a good move, I'm just like, thank you. I'm just like, thanks, man. My position does it. I'm playing it. I don't care if there's a better move. You know, that's good enough for me, you know. So, and that's in long play classical chess as well. So, yeah, I don't know. Do you follow that rule, David?
No, I'm on board with you, Simon, unless I have 2 hours on my clock and can sit there and enjoy soak up the moment. I think that's a new quote. We need it in books. We need you. Simon Williams, speciality there.
What was it? If you find a good move, just thank you.
Yeah, I'm just happy.
And meanwhile, White's rook retreats, and Black is now threatening maybe some tactics, but he does decide to try and put some pressure on this White knight in the middle. Still awkward. We should mention the two knights, especially here for White. Got a pawn up, and there should be a way to coordinate here.
But look at the clock.
Oh, gosh.
For both of them.
Flag time, as chat is saying right now. It's ticking low, and big decisions are coming up. Nodirbek Abdusattorov up a pawn. Wesley with the bishop pair. Is that enough compensation?
The more I'm looking at it, the more I'm liking Wesley's practical chances here, right? It was misplayed, but look at what it's taken Nodirbek to recover from grabbing that pawn and going back, right? I mean, again, I know the eval bar says White's okay, but the more I look at it, this is, what do you do with that knight on a4? If you bring it back, you lose the knight. I mean, this is getting scary. There's a reason Nodirbek just crossed the minute line.
Yeah, it's deja vu. Remember, in the previous game against Iturrizaga, Wesley was also a pawn down, but he also had the bishop pair there and dynamic chances, and he worked that one pretty well. Simon, do you think the pawn's going to decide, or would you take Black here?
I mean, they're moving so slow, aren't they? I mean, I think it's going to come down, as Tanya says, that extra piece there, which is the clock, and we see c4. I mean, I feel that White should be doing very well here, but it's such a tricky position. There's tactics. What about c5 now? That's clearly the critical move. If c5 doesn't work here, then what does Wesley do? You know, Wesley's just in trouble because White will play c5. Black has to try something like this.
I think c5 has to be played, and Nodirbek's idea was knight to b5, right? Now you protect, exactly. In fact, it's on the board, yep. They protect the knights by getting in each other's way.
And will we see a bunch of trades here? We could see, for example, these bishops disappear. OK, first we see another capture, and this pawn is loose, so Wesley can grab his pawn back. He has grabbed his pawn back. Still, this White knight is sidelined. Yes, the Black king is slightly vulnerable to some checks now, but maybe it's not enough. We see the evaluation bar bang in the middle. It's going to be a time scramble. And
Nodirbek there shaking his head. I think he's got too many threats going on. The d pawn is hanging. Your knight is at the side of the board, and it can get very tricky for him. He's at the 30-second mark. Is Nodirbek feeling the pressure in this position?
Yes.
He's got to be. And his nerves in some... We didn't talk about this as much because Magnus Carlsen's dominance on the board was the focus, but I feel like Nodirbek's nerves got to him a little bit yesterday off the board in his games versus Magnus, and I wonder if he'll keep his cool here in these critical scrambles versus Wesley.
20 seconds. I mean, you know, it's getting very, very short on time now. I mean, if he takes the bishop, Black just develops... I guess quite easily with the knight, and he can block a check on the 7th rank, and there's no advantage there at all. But how many seconds? He's 3 seconds.
Make a move!
Wow.
Wow, he played it with just 3 seconds on the clock.
What's going on?
He's just trying to play against Black's development. He doesn't want to trade on Black's term, allowing that knight to jump into play. So that's a good idea there by Nodirbek, but he just burnt too much of his clock.
Yeah, and 5 seconds.
3 seconds.
Now. He's going to be stuck here for a long time.
Remember, he lost on time versus Magnus in game 2 yesterday. Yes, it had got away from him, but he actually lost on time. So Nodirbek needs to stay up on the clock.
Okay, trades, and it's level material yet again after all of that drama, but Black's pieces are coming out. Here we go. Whose pieces are better placed? Whose pawn structure is better? White has some real loose pawns on the queen side. That could come back to haunt him later. But first activating the knight. This one feels like it's delicately poised. I don't know which way it's going to go. Still, anything could happen here.
Big tension.
Nodirbek is, he's played a lot of online chess, so has Wesley. This is the scramble.
He needs to
We've
make
been
a
waiting
move.
for.
And I think he's going to play most part of this game now with just 1 second on the clock.
Yep.
And that just means that the chances to make a big mistake are super high for Nodirbek.
Agreed.
I do slightly prefer his position. I mean, even though I know the bar says it's equal, just having this little bit more extra space, his knight's quite nice, and the white king has a very natural way into the game. You know, it can float in. This is a nice manoeuvre, though, by Wesley. Wesley's found a great square for his knight. You can put that in front of the white rook on c5. Maybe there's a better square as well. OK.
Even better.
Wesley's going in.
Wesley's in.
He's in it to win it.
In like Flynn.
What's the idea? Rook c6.
Counterattack.
Wait, knight c4, knight d6 is a mating net.
Yeah, he wants to go for mate.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, Danny, that's huge. Maybe the path now is narrow for Black. You have to attack this white rook with the Black knight. Otherwise, White comes in with his knight and mates, as you say.
I don't think Wesley saw it. Look at clocks are now going to be even.
10 seconds. Oh, OK.
That's a move that says he saw it and he backs up in panic.
He's a pawn up now, but his pieces are very passive, and the Black king is in some danger here, right? It's kind of trapped in the cage. The white knight can try to move around now.
Yeah,
it is a pawn. It is a pawn.
He can start attacking the black rook. He does it, but it's a mistake.
Ooh, suddenly he's dropping more
because h4 and a4. Now at this point, you might lose too many pawns, even if you do win the knight.
Wow.
Take the second one, Wesley. You can take one with check. There we go.
That's a lot of pawns.
Oh, no. Rook e4.
Oh,
it's falling apart for Nodirbek.
Nodirbek, he reacts. He missed it.
How did he pre-move? Why did he
pre-moved rook h8? He thought Black's rook was going back to d4 to defend the Black knight.
Oh, my God. That's just, honestly, that's a mistake of youth. You got to call it what it is. You just can't pre-move in these scenarios.
Yeah.
Now it's a hopeless position, just about to be 3 pawns down.
Yeah, it's over. This is an easy rook endgame.
And it's a win with the black pieces as well, which is
that's huge.
Which is massive, massive. Yeah.
Magnus Carlsen won with the black pieces against both Fabi and Nodirbek. If Wesley starts with a win with black, these are hard situations to overcome.
Wow, and that's 3 extra pawns for Wesley, so he's also up on the clock, and Nodirbek there, he knows that this is all over. But it's a good idea for him to continue, not just to fight it out, but also to just calm down the nerves before that must-win game.
Again, the nerves got to him. That was why, but just,
it's time.
We know.
It's time.
You got to get your laptop out of the way if you're going to do that.
Sorry, Danny. I'm learning. I'm learning.
For the producers here, man.
And are we doing the drinking game? With water, of course.
Come on, with water, of course. Come on.
No, but
just resign, and it happens.
Back to the point.
There we go.
Nodirbek does just resign, and with that win, Wesley So takes the lead in the match. What a fight this was, and now Nodirbek in a must-win final game of the Rapid. Disappointed there. It started with a bang, but it turned around for him, and Wesley keeping it solid and striking when the opportunity comes to him. He got the job done, David.
He got the job done. It wasn't smooth, but he reacted very well to an opening surprise there, Wesley, and it was here that he clinched the win after a really topsy-turvy game. White has sacrificed a pawn, and Nodirbek lost the thread in time pressure by playing knight to c4. Instead, he could have played a move such as rook h8, forcing the black rook to go passive, or he could have pushed Harry the h-pawn for glory, but instead, knight to c4, and this is where it fell apart. Black's rook attacked this knight, he jumped forward, another pawn fell with check, but this was the fatal moment. He pre-moved. He assumed the black rook would go back to d4, defending this knight, and so he wanted to bring his rook to h8. Instead, however, clever move by Wesley, so attacking the white knight, and the fatal pre-move. Rook to h8, dropping that knight, losing a whole move, and of course, this endgame was hopeless. Wesley takes the win.
Wesley So fantastic technique and nerves of steel, which in this losers final gets him the win in round 1. For the second time today, he takes the lead in his matches. Now, Nodirbek Abdusattorov has to win on demand, and he's got the black pieces against Wesley So solid. What will happen? We will find out on the other side of the break. Don't go anywhere.
It doesn't look like much, but neither would a Sicilian defense to the untrained eye. This is a performance enhancer. You don't see it. How about now? Manage your air quality, sharpen your performance, change the game with Airthings.
Airthings Masters, Chessable Masters, Chess Kid Cup, and now Aimchess Rapid. They all lead to one thing: the Champions Chess Tour finale. The finale will be played between December 9th and 16th in Toronto, Canada. The top 8 players from the season will compete to be crowned the 2023 champion. 3 spots are already taken, and the remaining 5 will be decided in the upcoming tour events. So follow us to see who will join Magnus Carlsen in Canada in December.
Mark your calendars. December 9th to 16th is when the Champions Chess Tour season playoffs and finals will happen. $500,000 on the line, and that's the big aim for all these players who are fighting against each other. And what a fight we're getting. And it was also an extremely fun fight when our very own Danny Wrench played against Christian Pulisic's bot. Take a look.
Welcome, everybody, to Intility Arena here in Oslo, Norway. We're about to play the Christian Pulisic bot. That's right, we're officially announcing that one of the biggest soccer stars, one of the biggest football stars in the world, depending on whether you call it football or soccer, is now a bot on Chess.com. We're super excited to have this partnership with him, and I'm going to play chess against the bot. I think I get to be the first one to ever do it. So let's jump in and start the game. I'm going to play e4, and Christian pops in the corner. He says, I've played a lot of e4 games over the last few days. I'm ready. All right, I love it. I have to watch out for the fact that my b pawn is hanging from the queen. That's a little spicy. And if I castle, he's got knight f2. What is going on? How good is Christian's bot supposed to be? There are tactics I need to be aware of over here, like the fact that my king could be wide open, and I am taking that very seriously. I think I'm winning. Oh, wait, my rook is hanging. Christian is on the attack. Okay, look out. This is fascinating. I'm still winning, just barely, but his bot is... Or am I winning? I don't even know. I don't want to lose to Christian's bot. I don't actually see the win there. Wait, looks like we're going into extra time. The pressure's on. Off the crossbar, so close to checkmate. Yeah, we're going for the attack. King to g4 was necessary. He didn't play it. I've got king g3. He's on the edge of the field. Insert soccer reference. I got my queen to a6. I thought my rook was on to b6. I just lost the game. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, what is wrong with me? I'm gonna lose to Christian Pulisic's bot. I feel like we need to, like, edit the video to make sure that I win. This is hilarious. Oh, he blundered the pawn. I still have a chance. Oh my gosh. At least I'm not going to lose anymore to the Christian Pulisic bot. I should be able to draw, but this game is probably going to go forever. Nope, ended in a draw. I mean, I feel like that was poetic. What does he say then? Fun game, looks like we should play again. You're right, we should play again. Rematch, Christian, because we drew. He says, I've trained a lot for this game mentally and physically. Lots of sleep, tons of practice. I am so shocked by what happened there that I have to redeem myself. I keep blundering. Oh my gosh. Wake up, Dan. He's going to give check. I'll take and play knight in, but then he has bishop h6. Why is Christian Pulisic's bot so good? Here we go. That deserves some defense. That's right. Now we're going to take and shake and bake. And this time, I will not blunder my queen. I'll move away from checkmate. We'll get that queen. We're going to come over here and clean up. I am not going to stalemate you. And I am the first human being on the planet to beat the Christian Pulisic bot. It feels good. It feels good to win 1.5 out of 2 games, especially when you're a pathetic international master who needs to do things like that to feel good about himself, Anyway, this is actually pretty awesome. The Christian Pulisic bot is live on Chess.com. You can play it, go check it out, play the bot, and then come visit me in my new office. I'll be here.
1.5 out of 2. Can you do better than Danny Wrench against Christian Pulisic's bot? You can go play against him right now on go.chess.com/play Pulisic. Best of 2. Danny, you won that one. Proud of it?
I don't think I can possibly be proud of what I did there. Hanging queen h6, like what?
I mean,
it was hot outside.
How did I lose to this guy? That's all I was thinking of. He just dropped his
With
queen.
the crowd pressure, did you not see that in the
There were
middle
so
of
many
the
people.
stadium? So many people.
I got nervous. No, but seriously, it was hot, and I wasn't even thinking. I gave up my queen, so I also, even though I was the first human to win, I was also the first human to draw in a very pathetic manner. So.
Wow, well, Danny, you did win the best of two, but right now the big question is who will win this best of two as the players are getting ready, and Nodirbek Abdusattorov has his task cut. With the black pieces, he's got to give it his all, go all in, throw the kitchen sink if that's what it takes at Wesley. So he's in a must-win situation. Simon, can he do this?
He can, yeah. I mean, he's got lots of exciting openings up his sleeve. He generally plays very aggressively anyway. He just needs to get the right kind of position. I think he'll go Sicilian. I think he's got to try to go for a double-edged opening. I mean, we saw Fabiano go for the modern, which is 1g6 in a must-win scenario. He's having a long think, isn't he? What do we reckon, Sicilian or something else here?
Cecile for the kill. Yeah, he's got to try something.
Cecile for the kill.
He has to be super careful against Wesley, though.
Why has he not made a first move? 30 seconds.
I think he's thinking. What I was going to say is because he has to be super careful. And if you play e5, you know Wesley So's got the Berlin draw in his pocket. He's got like 10 of them, actually. So you got to be careful. He'll play one. Okay, here comes the... So we'll see what he does on bishop b5. Nodirbek is a sideline king, right? The kid loves it, right? He loves... Oh, Wesley plays a Scotch. That's my boy. That's my boy. Go for it.
It's a good opening, Danny.
It's a good opening.
It's a good opening.
That's my opening. That's my boy.
Where's your chessboard course?
You're my boy, Blue. You're my boy.
Yeah, the good thing about this as well is that a lot of the variations, for example, if Black brings his knight out, you can just bring your knight out too, just be super solid. You don't have to take that many risks as White. The Scotch does have a very aggressive reputation, but there are ways to play it safely. And Nodirbek goes for a sideline. He gives a check. It looks like this loses a whole move. The bishop now forced back, but White has now taken up the c3 square with a pawn rather than the ideal square for the knight. Interesting, yeah, mind games at this early stage.
I'm like, so Wesley thought a whole bunch before he played e4. We kind of missed that because we were coming off the bot video. Then Nodirbek thought a ton. These guys were deep in the meta game of like, I don't want to give my opponent a forced draw line. And then he went for e5. You think you got to get a Berlin try by Wesley, but there must be something that the top players know that we haven't gotten the memo yet on as far as Black's ability to avoid that Berlin draw. I don't know what it was going to be on bishop b5, but now we have a Scotch.
Yeah, a Scotch, and now dropping back with his bishop. This is still well known, this position, and knight f5, one of the main moves. I think Kasparov has had this from the white side and various other strong players. But yeah, once pieces disappear from the board, the dark squared bishop's about to disappear now. Wesley, he's going for that Maroczy bind that we talked about a bit earlier on. White's still solid.
Played this position many times as White. And White, go ahead. Sorry, Tony.
No, go on. I was just saying there's a basic but big threat on the board, Danny, but take it away.
But the g7 pawn, hanging with check, it's an important one to be aware of. And so Black actually can play g6. Black can also take on e3 voluntarily. But the main idea is that with that knight coming behind the e-pawn, White's going to try to get c4 and then the other knight to c3 as soon as possible. White actually has a choice of fianchettoing. We've seen two kinds of Maroczy binds, the fianchetto, g3, bishop g2, and we've seen bishop d3. So there's a choice, but it depends a little bit on what Black does.
Yeah, just to show some of your ideas there, Danny, for example, if he does kick the knight, trade of bishops, followed by White dropping back, and yeah, one or two more moves, you play c4, you bring your knight to c3, and White is very happy. It's going to be hard to break that one down.
What's funny about these positions is that often Black, you can play knight f6, but often Black will also go to e7, depending on the position, and try to play for f5 at some point. It just depends on the type of idea that they want. So Black is thinking about whether to play g6 or bishop takes e3 here.
Yeah, and I actually have a horror story from this position, a nightmare, a bad memory. Back in 2007, I was playing in the World Under-18 Championship. I needed to win with Black to win the tournament. A draw wouldn't have been enough, and I played this line as Black. My opponent did exactly what Danny's recommending there, and I lost. It was a bad memory. Sorry?
Who was that against?
Ivan Popov, Russian grandmaster.
Okay, right.
And he basically did that. He just shut down the game. He put his pawn on c4, knight on c3. I eventually lashed out with f5, and Black wasn't ready. And,
well, we could see this happen here. Yeah. I mean, Black's got to generate something in this position.
I'm surprised Nodirbek went for this line. I was just about to ask for the analysis board to show you why this is actually not considered as effective as knight G to E7, because White's going to play F3 here. And after castles, which is the main move, White plays C4 right away and shuts down the studio with D5. And these positions are considered the ideal ones White is sort of shooting for in this line with knight F5. So I'm actually, now Nodirbek is also someone who's played the Scotch in his career as White. We're getting this line, by the way, F3, and I expect Wesley to play C4. So Nodirbek must also understand some of the move orders. But anyway, objectively, or at least back when I was a chess player, which, you know, I don't know what I am now, knight G to E7 was considered the approach for Black to get this F5 idea, as David talked about.
I was just wondering here, Danny, I guess you're completely right, but I mean, is Black's only chance to play F5? It's like a line in the English opening, which I know Shirov had quite a lot. And if Black can go knight H5 and F5, is that maybe what Nordibek's going for, to try and get some activity? The White King is still in the middle of the board. You know, he got a great grip on the centre. If 5 more moves go by, then I think White will, no way can White lose this position. 5 more moves without any action happen, White's just going to be going through to face Magnus. I think Black has to try something, right? I mean, I'd be looking at trying knight H5 and F5. I mean, without these moves, I'd be very unhappy. No, it's just, you know, I don't know if straight away or if I castle first, but
usually
something
Queen
like this.
D2 or something is met with this, just so you can play Queen F2 and on Queen H4 check. And so it's not a bad idea, Simon. Also, it's not even just F5. Knight H5 is a thematic idea here. If you can get like, again, it doesn't work as the White Knight's coming to D5, but if you can get like knight H5 and a knight on F4 and like a pawn on G5 and you can grip the dark squares, that's another way to do it. But one of the fun things I always liked about these positions is White hasn't even committed where they're castling yet. And as someone who probably favored attacking positions more than he should have, a lot like my partner right here, Queen D2 and castles long is also on the agenda in some of these positions, and then push them, baby. So you can tell I'm biased. Like Tanya was in the Hedgehog. I like these positions for White, and I'm genuinely surprised that Nodirbek would play knight F6, guys, because remember, he has to win. This is a tough position for Black to win. I'm surprised by this.
But it's move 11, Danny. It's just getting started, and at least it's sort of offbeat sort of a position, which does have the potential to get exciting once these breaks like F5 do arrive. When you're playing Black, when you're playing against Wesley, it's hard to get something out of the opening.
I agree, and I know what you're saying. You don't want me to put a nail in the coffin yet. I understand what you're doing as a co-commentator. I'm with you. But objectively, like, you do have to create dynamic positions, and this is a Maroczy bind that is tough to fight back on, and he didn't even play the lines with F5. So I'm actually fascinated to see what Nodirbek does here, because I believe in him. And I believe he played the Scotch, so I think he understands some things. So I'm fascinated to see. I'm with you on the rooting. I'm rooting for it, but I'm skeptical.
He has to get that deep dark forest.
Yeah. I mean, maybe he can put the knight on C5 as the other idea. I mean, just looking at the chess sort of things. But you're right. I mean, I think he's got to break out, though, right? I mean, I don't think he can just sit in this position. He's got to try a pawn break. Otherwise, White's got a lovely grip with the Maroczy bind, and we saw that Wesley's already won a very nice game in the same setup with the pawns on C4 and E4 against Eduardo. He just, knew exactly what to do there.
Yeah, Wesley will be thrilled, just the outcome of this opening. And Simon, you mentioned if 5 moves go by and nothing happens, then White's out of any danger. It's already been 2 or 3 moves.
Yeah.
So
I think Black has this. So again, like Tanya, if it wasn't for the match situation, I would be more fine with it, right? Because, like, yeah, you can play these slow ideas. You can try to grip the dark squares. You know, White has both Queen D2 or G3 here. Like, and you can castle short. But I just feel like, again, I'm just looking at the type of position. It's a bind. You know what I'm saying? And, like, this is not what I would go for. I do like knight H5 because we're going to go for F5 at some point. But, yeah, Wesley is, he's cooking here.
Yeah, very calm there. G3, keeping his king flexible. Where will Wesley put his king? I think that's a big question. If this was a must-win situation for White, then of course he'd go queenside.
Yeah.
And objectively, maybe he should go queenside as well. But he's just keeping his options open. And Nodirbek dropping his knight back.
Very surprised by that.
Losing time. 2 tempi gone.
Yeah. So.
But it counts for something, right? When you provoke a pawn move in your opponent's camp, pawns can't go backwards. There are always weaknesses that are created. And maybe right now it's not so clear, but later on, these light squares around White King, they could count for something.
It's true. And I think the big question Black has to face in these structures is So white will either play queen d2 at some point, and maybe a rook comes to the center. But at some point, a white knight will go to d5, and then you have to figure out how you're going to deal with that tension, right? If you're going to run away with the knight, I actually like this plan for Nodirbek, bringing the knight to c5, which justifies that a5 pawn, right? And then you kind of want to move the other knight back from c6, and at some point play c6 and kick white's pony out, right? You want to move that other knight. We can just draw an arrow with the pawn. So this is kind of how you maintain the tension, and you turn it into a bit of a maneuvering battle, because you don't really want to trade on d5. If you trade on d5 with either knight, like, not only do the pieces get off the board, but white's space advantage and the grip just gets even stronger.
Yeah, he's coming around with his knight. Nice idea there. How do we think Wesley, meanwhile, is going to set up? Maybe a knight landing on d5, as you say, Danny, maybe just kind of super flexible, just bringing his rook across. Will he push pawns? Again, we mentioned that he does it immediately. Wow. We mentioned in a similar structure that this could backfire. Suddenly some loose pawns in the center. We'll see maybe this pawn is a bit weak. Yeah, it's interesting. We shouldn't write him off yet. I agree with you, Tanya. Still very tense. Yep. It's not the type of position that we usually associate with winning chances, but still a lot of pieces left on the board.
Yeah. I like it.
I'm going to say that Nodirbek with the black pieces must-win situation, I think he's got reasons to be pleased with this opening outcome. It's so easy to get shut down by Wesley and not even get a chance to have enough resources left on the board to create something. It's still a very rich middle game. White has weakened the king side. The white bishop is on the queen side. There are potential pawn weaknesses on the board. It's everything to play for.
Yep, there's a lot of chess left. I think objectively white is doing good here, but yeah, there's a lot of chess left, and I do like the idea that you pointed out, Tanya, that those pawns are overextended. So if this knight b4 move continues to have good things, meaning let's say a trade, every piece that comes off the board when you've overextended your pawns, your space turns into holes, and your space turns into weaknesses. So knight b4, he's on track. He's on track. He's down a couple of minutes, but look, we all want Armageddon here. Okay, we're all rooting for it. I just, you put me in a position, I can't lie how I feel about this position and my surprise about how Nodirbek approached it. So we'll see.
What's bigger for you right now, Danny? Your love for this position or the dream
rooting
of Armageddon?
Oh my God, you're asking me like choose between one of my kids.
It's got to be Armageddon, Danny.
Armageddon.
That's when chess wins.
Don't tell Talia she's my favorite. Don't tell her. None of my kids watch the show anyway. Armageddon is my favorite kid. You're right. The only thing more exciting is sudden death dodgeball. We all know that.
And Danny, tell us about this whole bidding Armageddon process, because we didn't have that before in the chess world, and it brings a really exciting twist.
Yeah.
As a sport fan, what do you think about it? I
love it, and I got to give a shout out to the events team. Michael Brancato, the VP of esports, and Greg Shahade actually works super hard. A lot of people know him as the commissioner of the Pro Chess League, but Greg works with Michael on a lot of the fun formats. Robert Hess, Danya. There's so much discussion, and I don't really remember whose idea it was. I think it's been done before, of course, in longer rapids, but I think no one had ever done the bidding in like fast rapid, right? And they really went all in on it, and it's been so much drama and so interesting. So shout out to all of them.
The valuation bar just taking a bit of a drop there, actually, after White's last move. Is that, it's not as simple as I first thought, I have to say. I thought this was just going to be, I think Tanya said it very well, and yourself, Danny, that actually there's a lot of holes right behind the pawns. Yep. And there's a lot of space there that maybe White can sort of get into at some point.
I agree, Tanya. You're right. Now, okay, A3 is interesting, and then there's C6 is going to come, so he avoided that knight trade like I was talking about. When you get C6, White will get kicked back. So there's a game here. We got a game. Everyone, buckle up. Click in.
Are you not entertained?
Yeah, we've got a game, and A3 is nice and sneaky. It's a counterattack. Of course, Black's knight is hanging on the B4 square, but no time to go and take it. Black's threat is to capture on B2 with this A-pawn, and White's rook in the corner trapped. So you have to decide, do you allow your structure to be compromised, or do you step forward? But then the black A-pawn, Ari there, is going to be sitting for the rest of the game, super close to promotion. Any endgame will favour Black. And here we go. If Black can make it that far, looks promising now, suddenly.
Yeah, it's a very weird scenario with the knights as well. These knights are confusing, and I think it could be justified who gets the advantage on how those knights end up, because at the moment this black knight on the left hand side, maybe it's got to do something. It is now threatened, and I think capturing the center is possible, but it feels again, I think as you mentioned, that white will only improve his position if you take that knight in the middle of the board. And it's weird. I'm looking at all the pieces. I mean, also white's bishop looks disgusting, doesn't it? I mean, it looks like a big pawn who hasn't got out of bed yet. But I mean, it might at some point, jump out of bed on that long diagonal, but it doesn't look good at the moment. So it's a very strange position to evaluate. Not as easy, certainly, as I first thought. And I prefer this move. This seems like a much better idea, not changing the structure for white's benefit there. And, with c6 coming as well and the queen, it's actually very rich position.
Exactly what Danny said. The trade happens on black's terms here this time, and suddenly it's all about this knight caging these two pieces. This knight, if it stays there forever, you can even cement it later on if you need to. If it stays here, then it will paralyze at least one or two of the white pieces.
I'm obviously, again, the Scotch player in me has to kick in and get biased and ask where did it go wrong. So let's back up a couple moves, because I feel like the Alpha Zero Airy pawn really is showing its strength here. And I'm wondering, why did Wesley allow that? Like, okay, why didn't Wesley play a3 here? Like, instead of knight e5? I feel like this was the right idea, to kick the knight, and after the knight moves, whether you go knight d5 or even go after the a-pawn, like bishop back to c2, like, I'm surprised that Wesley kind of laid down and just, let the a-pawn do its thing. So, anyway, objectively, I wanted to figure that out just because, I want to understand, as someone who kind of plays these positions from time to time when he still plays chess. So I think that this was a big mistake, letting the pawn get all the way. It's still, this is fun, it's equal, and we're rooting for Armageddon, so go Nodirbek. But I think a3 was Wesley's best move, and we could see the edge would have been maintained there.
Yeah, especially after the dawn of Alpha Zero, as you mentioned, Danny. Players are really aware. They're super sensitive to those pawn pushes, so very surprising that Wesley kind of allowed it to continue marching down the board. And now queen to f6, keeping an eye on this dark square diagonal. Really nice move. White's king. Tanya, you called it. I was skeptical, but you called it. White's king feels a bit loose here.
And right now we're seeing a lot of play on the queen side, but don't be surprised if in a couple of moves it does shift to the king side because of the overextension of white's pawns, and that's the only way that white can untangle all that's going on the queen side, by trading this bishop for the knight. Is that a trade that you would go for in this position?
Ooh, if you asked me a few moves ago, I would have said, yeah, get rid of that white light square bishop, but now it doesn't look like a great piece. And Tanya, you mentioned it, threats against the white king. Black's bishop is threatening to jump out with a check on h3. White's rook would have been a target, so it moves forward, but yeah, it feels loose for white. It feels like somehow something's in the air.
Feels loose, right? Like you're looking at your bug house partner and you're like, pawn mates, or pawn knight on d4 or pawn on d, I don't even know, but like there's holes if you could just fill them with pieces, right? And so unfortunately for black, they only have a couple minor pieces here. There's no obvious solution to getting in on the squares, but yeah, it feels tender.
I'd love to see this rook a5 again.
Ooh, I like it.
Because obviously,
I love that move.
Because Wesley used this move, didn't he? I think in that game where he went through against Eduardo, and I just love the idea of these very weird rook swings. I mean, it's probably not right because you're lining up on the same line as the queen, but you want to go for the king. You want to bring more pieces in. It's not completely crazy, it'd just be, it'd be nice to see this as a theme of the day, that rook swinging in. But probably not working so well here.
I love it, the practical idea. It would scare Wesley, that's for sure.
Throw another piece in.
If I'm talking about Scotch ideas and the ones that I know well, I'll also talk about a game I lost horribly. One of my worst losses ever as white in the Scotch was to an idea like rook a5 in a big game too, and I just got very similar to this, where the momentum quickly shifted to the king side, and an overextended pawn chain left my king exposed, and I lost.
Oh, Danny.
It's okay.
There's a lot of trauma in the studio that we need to get past, especially with the Scotch opening.
And Simon, you mentioned bringing the rook into the party. He does it. He starts with the king side rook first, lining it up on the open E line. At some point, that E pawn can be tender. Once again, I'm a little worried about Nodirbek's time management. We've often seen the critical moments arrive, and he's just not got enough time, and then sort of messing it up. Then he's created his chances. He's done everything right so far. He's managed to get something out of the opening, but is clock going to be a factor in this one as well?
I think it has to be. It's been a factor in all of them, and I think that what you're calling attention to, Tanya, was reminding me of the point I was making about how Nodirbek looked versus Magnus. Remember, we only didn't get a fourth game because Nodirbek, his nerves got the best of him. He didn't convert, and I feel like, again, the time management suggests that he's just looked a little nervous. in some of these games, and I agree.
Yeah, and also this type of opening, we saw it previously when Wesley played against Ituruzaga from the black side against this Maroczy bind that we've been highlighting. It takes time. The onus is on you. The burden is on you to break out. And often that shows later on in the game, as it did with Ituruzaga. Meanwhile, okay, he's just started to up the speed, up the pace. He's brought his rook to d8, maybe hinting at a breakout in the center. We've been talking about finally pushing to break the Maroczy bind. He's hinting. I'm not so sure it's going to work, but I like what he's been doing. He just needs to do it quicker. And now it's time for Wesley, surely, to bring his rook into the game, that rook in the corner. It's E1, D1. Choices.
I really like the way Wesley's brought his bishop around towards his king side. Wesley very alert there, realising his king was actually starting to become a bit of a target, and that poor bishop who was in bed on the other side at least has found a better bed now.
Mm-hmm.
It's found a more comfortable bed where it actually defends the king. And actually the white king looking pretty safe, at this moment in time. It's only if some things get exchanged off that it could be, and the rooks get in now, it could be in any danger at all. So I think, again, Wesley's looking all right at the moment, pretty safe.
Maybe a Tempur-Pedic mattress? Found a new bed, Tempur-Pedic. What are you a soft mattress guy or are you a hard mattress guy?
You know what? Any kind of mattress is good for me.
Any kind of mattress?
Any kind of mattress.
Prefer a little harder mattress, back support.
Have you ever tried a water bed? I can see you and your water bed, Chess.com.
Okay, wait a second.
Okay.
F5. I'm surprised by that move.
That is very committal.
Committal is slightly anti-positional, but it's got a direct idea in mind, a specific idea of trading off the queens. Maybe it's forced now. If the queens come off, maybe he thinks he's safe there, Wesley.
He wants the endgame. He wants a draw. He's playing with house money right now. He only needs a half point.
Yeah, maybe that was a really opportune moment to push forward the f-pawn. We say it's in kind of anti-positional here. It's not what you want usually because you give away squares. Now white's center is much more static, but looks like the queens and the bishops are forced off the board. There we go, very quickly snapped off there. And what are we left with? We're left with black, a weak pawn on d6. Still hard to break out.
I ate my words in the last game when I thought Wesley played e4 in the game that he eliminated Ituruzaga, and he was right to go to that endgame. And maybe now f5 seems anti-positional, but if he only needs a draw, he's headed to the endgame.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense given the match situation. Wesley so will go on to the grand final if he's able to get a draw in this one. And we've been talking about that a-pawn, which was a big strength, clamping down white's queenside. But in many endgames, it can also be a weakness that just falls apart. I can imagine the knight retreating, and then suddenly black doesn't have enough resources to defend all the weaknesses on the board.
Yeah, just to point out your idea, Tanya, maybe it's a threat in this position as well. Okay, he doesn't go for it because, the black rook is tied down to this pawn. It doesn't have time to go and defend that a-pawn. Really, let's keep an eye on that one for later on. Meanwhile, distraction. He's trying to play on the king side suddenly. Let's catch up with the game. He's trying to take this pawn, is he? Or is he just hinting? Black is super stuck.
I think white has Tanya's idea in mind. I think Wesley brought the king up because if you move the knight to b1 earlier, the e4 pawn would have been weak, right? So Wesley correctly activates the king first to guard e4, and Tanya's knight b1, I think, is going to come into play here.
Yeah. He needs to get his rooks active here. Abdusattorov, he gains some space. He pushes his h-pawn, but this looks very tempting now.
And I think the point is that black can actually move the rook and get it to defend the a-pawn because white's got to be careful about picking up the d-pawn. Don't forget, if the a-pawn falls, that's super good for black to get the a-pawn rolling.
Yeah, so white would love to avoid this if possible. The one downside is that after your rook moves, maybe white just goes back and you cannot repeat the position now. You're forced to defend this pawn.
Huge point.
Oh, that's a good point. What's he played here?
Whoa, breaking through, e5.
What in the world? Wesley So going for the kill.
Oh, I quite like that. He's just
Wesley So.
really
okay. You did it.
Danny.
Why are you doing that? I have to get some more therapy. I have to get more therapy. The PTSD.
This is the idea behind the big breakthrough. It's not a sacrifice because this pawn is poisoned. If you take it, a nasty check will deflect the black king, and suddenly no defense of the rook. It's only defended once, it's attacked twice, and white would emerge with an extra rook here. Beautiful, beautiful tactic. And okay, Nodirbek has had to capture this pawn instead, but look at the wreckage of his structure. This is one-way traffic suddenly. Wesley in control. Beautiful.
Wesley's in control, and his comeback, the comeback tour, starring Wesley So, continues.
You called it a few days ago, Danny. after his win just, what was it, 2 days ago? You said he's coming back.
He's playing great chess, isn't he? I mean, just the quality has got so much better every day. I mean, if Wesley So does win this match, let's just remind everyone he's going to be playing against Magnus in the final. And yesterday, Magnus was asked, who would you like to play? And he said Wesley. And why did he say Wesley? Because he thought that would be the toughest final and the closest final, I feel. And, you know, Magnus loves a challenge. That would be some final, wouldn't it? I mean, really.
We're not there yet, but I agree. I think So.
Yeah.
So on form is a tough challenge for Magnus, and he knows it, and that's going to be a battle tomorrow.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, your idea on the board, Tanya, that white knight dropped back, forcing the black rook to go to A8. And look at the black rooks, both just totally immobilized. One as a blockader, the other one just defending a mere pawn. Looks like white's rooks can start entering shortly. Maybe there's other ways to finesse it. The white knight's going to come back.
Yeah, I like that knight maneuver, David. Maybe you can move that knight to where the king is, but all these ideas looking really good for white. Now, black's rooks don't want to be on those squares. The black rooks cannot get active now. The black knight kind of looks all right, but it also can't get active, and white's rooks are ready to dive in, and that's a scary pawn right in the middle of the board, one square from queening. It's not looking good at the moment for Nodirbek.
It's hard because that knight on b4 keeps the rook on d2 tied down, but that means it can't do anything else, right? You kind of wish the knight was involved. If you move the knight to a6, then white is free to play rook d6 check, and here we go. King takes f5. So
that knight you mentioned, that was at the center of the board. On e4, we might be singing a different tune right now, but there's no path there. And notice how that c pawn actually really does take away squares. He listens to you, Danny. He says it's time.
He does it, but I think rook d6. I was sort of advising not to do that, Nodirbek, because here comes rook d6 check, and I don't see a reason why can't just check and.
Yeah, but the problem is there's even going to be perpetuals, I feel, you know, because all of black's pieces are on the wrong side of the board. And, you know, even if you don't even need to win this position as white, a draw is good enough to go through. King e7, I think the only move here. Keep a bit of pressure. If you can get your knight to e6.
I was just going to say, if Wesley maybe doesn't even need to take the pawn, maybe he should get the knight back in the game. You can swing the rook over to h6 at some point. I would look at knight c3 here. Okay, he does take it.
Active king.
Active king for the win.
Yeah, but the d-pawn is going to fall. What does Wesley have up his sleeve? Wow, the evaluation bar reacted big time there. It looked like a very natural move to me. He's going for white's very far advanced pass pawn there, but...
Yeah. Well, what is the idea? Wesley finds it. What is...
I think he's just going to go c5 at the right
moment.
Oh,
you just play c5 and black is frozen.
Yeah.
Let it go, Elsa.
And your other rook can rock and roll then as well, so... Yeah.
Nice one.
Saw it in the camera. What's happening here? It looks like black is going to take this pawn, but we'll see, a demonstration of domination here. If the knight does take this pawn, then, as Simon says, just lock it down. Now everything is protected. Black is ultimately pinned. If you move your knight, all the rooks will disappear, and white will be winning that endgame. Simply, this pawn would fall as well. You cannot even activate this rook because white will just defend everything. This knight is coming back into the game, and that will spell the end.
Plus, now that the rook on d6 is defended by the pawn, you have rook e1 check in a lot of positions, and then it's just perpetual. Rook e1, king f8, rook d1. Just you can't do anything, right? So that just ends it on the spot.
Clinical stuff. Amazing play by Wesley So throughout today, starting from his loser semi-final to this match. Felt like a Wesley So show throughout, and Nodirbek never really got going. He never got his chances in this match.
No, I mean, Wesley's just been too strong. He's played so well throughout. I mean, there's been maybe that, that first game, as Eduardo said, of the day. Eduardo got some chances in time scramble, but he wasn't even better in that position. This move I'm a little bit surprised about. Does this give black some chances? Because he really could have shut that knight down. I don't think so. But Wesley's just played fantastic, and he's getting better and better every day. If he does get a final against Magnus, it's going to be a very hard one to call, that one.
It's going to be a really fun one, because that's one final we haven't seen yet in the Champions Chess Star. Magnus Carlsen taking on Wesley. He still needs to draw this game to get there, but right now it's white with all the trumps in the position.
Yeah, the knight's going to come into c3.
I think rook d5 here is
rook d5 looks
is
good
also
as well,
very good. I mean,
I don't really want to chase the black knight to e6 though, so I'm just kind of like, let's play knight c3, and that guy's been patiently waiting for a square to develop too.
Yeah, bring the last piece to that party, and yes, black might win the d pawn, but that will only end up in some trades, and I think White has got at least a draw in his pocket there. So Wesley just mulling over. Also the clock advantage. He's got the luxury of just sitting there for 3-4 minutes, calculating his way to at least a draw or a position that's very safe. Nodirbek with 20 seconds just reacting. And at this point, it's not going to be enough. A win is a distant dream.
I think that was the right call there.
Yeah. Good call there, Danny. The knight joins the attack. He takes the pawn, and it's a big mistake. Is there a finish here, David?
Oof. I think it's something to do with knight d5 and the b6 squares calling my name. I'm freaking out. What is it?
Take everything, take once and go knight d5, and then
yeah, there's
right, Simon.
yeah, just.
Is that what it is? Take once and knight d5, and then if the king goes to the d file, knight b6.
And Wesley, he leaves because it's over.
Yeah.
Wait,
he
what
gets
happened?
the draw. I think there was a draw offer that was made, and Wesley just accepts it. Nodirbek played rook d7. It is a dead-loss situation, but he just offered a draw.
Yeah, he'd given up hope. He knew it was hopeless on the board. He knew he was actually losing this position and decided to get out of there. Surprising. We're used to seeing players play to the bitter end, but yeah, just pragmatism there. Means he's out, though.
Nodirbek is out of the Aimchess Rapid, and Wesley So does it for the second time today. He books his spot into the Aimchess Rapid Grand Final against Magnus Carlsen. And what a show he's put on after a tough start on a Monday, day one of the Aimchess Rapid. He's won every single match since, in 2 matches today. It truly was the Wesley So show. What was the highlight for you, David?
Several highlights here, Tanya, and just to point out 2 moments that clinched it for Wesley, that sealed his path to the grand final. Here we were talking about black coming back into the game, White's king slightly airy, this black knight very active, but this move, f5, out of the blue, traded off the queens and forced a very safe position. This tension is just too much because black's queen is needed to guard the bishop. And once queens came off, once bishops came off, Wesley was able to work his magic. If we fast forward to the final position to show why Nodirbek had given up hope, we also see that after taking this pawn, a simple rook trade, as Simon was mentioning, a knight check here would have been deadly. The black king lacks good squares. It might have to retreat to a square like this one, but yeah, this knight jump now would have ended the game pretty much. This rook is attacked, this knight is attacked, and black would barely be able to survive a few more moves.
What a performance there by Wesley So. Drawing that last game, he always had it together. In fact, he could have pushed for more, but it wasn't required because take a look at the scoreline and what a day of chess we've had in the elimination bracket. We started with the loser semi-final, a big fight by Trizaga, but Wesley So won the first game and a draw in the second one sealed the deal. He went on to play Nodirbek Abdusattorov, starts with a win, a dominating performance in this match against Nodirbek by Wesley there. And that means we get the final that we've been waiting for in the Champions Chess Tour, a final that Magnus Carlsen is looking forward to as well as he takes on Wesley So. And Wesley So will have to beat Magnus twice tomorrow to become the champion. And that's not an easy ask.
It's not an easy ask, but this is the final that we've been waiting for. I mean, I'm like, clear your schedules. Tomorrow's a Friday, right? Call in sick. This is it. You got Wesley So with his chance to punch his ticket to Toronto. Magnus asked for it. He said, I want Wesley, and let's go. I'm excited.
It's going to be a really fun match, David.
Yeah, and these two have history. Wesley So has beaten Magnus actually several times before in the Champions Chess Tour. Back in season 1, he beat him twice in finals, so he has form. Magnus knows how dangerous Wesley is. It's going to be fire.
But it is hard to beat Magnus once in a match, doing it twice. Simon, that's going to be a big one.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an uphill challenge, but he's done it before. He's beaten Magnus on occasions, and it's kind of 2 of the best players fighting against each other in a quick format. It's going to be, it's just going to be a great match tomorrow. I mean, I really don't know who to pick. I mean, Magnus is playing so well, but Wesley's just getting better and better every game. So it's going to be very exciting.
It's going to be great chess tomorrow, and it was great chess today by Wesley So, and he is joining us. Wesley, congratulations.
Hi, guys. Yeah, thank you very much. It was a very, very exciting day for me, at least.
It was...
Yeah.
Go on, Wesley.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to mention, just like to apologize Nodirbek for not... I mean, I completely got trolled in the first game. Like when he played Bishop B5, I was gonna offer him a take back, but there's no take back on Chess.com. So I actually wanted to play Bishop B4, but I figured maybe Bishop B5 is not that stupid. But yeah, I just completely got trolled that one.
You were smiling a lot at that point, and it was really fun to watch the reaction. What was going on in your mind then?
Well, I thought he mouse slipped.
You mouse slipped?
To be honest. I thought he wanted to play bishop c4. And I guess, Nodirbek's very happy to qualify for the next tournament. But I thought the games today were kind of serious. And to play that on the second move takes a lot of courage for him. So kudos to that. And actually, he got a very good position. Like, it's very difficult mentally when your opponent trolls you. I remember when Magnus played the Bone Cloud against me in a blitz game 2 years ago, and I lost that game. So, I mean, black should be better, but it's not easy when you haven't seen that position before, also mentally to adjust. Now, you're not sure whether you should play for a win, and also if you lose, it's going to be very embarrassing, and Nodirbek was actually quite close in the end. He's just a very good practical player. He put up a lot of pressure on me just making moves so quickly.
It was a great fight. And Wesley, you started the Aimchess Rapid a little shaky, lost the first match, went into the losers bracket here, but since then, you've just been playing amazing chess. What switched? Because you're just on fire now.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, I wanted to join the interview studio at least once for that. But also it's very interesting. I mean, I probably should have won the first match against Nodirbek, and then I probably should have lost the match against Fedosiv, and I probably should also have lost the match against Fabiano. So in the end, I think the format is very interesting because you have one bad game, then you still have chances to come back. So when I first heard about the format earlier this year, I wasn't sure, but now having 2 lives is very interesting, and I just took it a game at a time. Try not to do anything strenuous in between the rounds. Try not to prepare too much, but just come up and play.
Well, Wesley, it's been a joy to watch, and I've always said a confident Wesley So usually means an on-form Wesley So, and an on-form Wesley So beat Magnus Carlsen in Oslo in 2019, was a global champion last year, and maybe he's playing the best chess in the world when he's on form. So how do you feel heading into tomorrow in a match against Magnus Carlsen, given the momentum you seem to have found?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough to win 2 matches in a row. And also, he won his first 9 games in Blitz in Croatia. And I think he also won Title Tuesday, the late Title Tuesday, the other day with 9, was it like 10 out of 11, something like that. I watched the full stream. So, yeah, again, the usual, just try to play my best chess and hope that he gives me some chances. I mean, Magnus is only human. He can have an off day also from time to time. And, I mean, first of all, I'm happy to qualify for the next event. That was my main goal. But, I've lost way too many matches against Magnus Carlsen in the past. So things should be different at some point. Hopefully tomorrow will be the day. But I'd like to thank you again, Danny, for always believing in me, even when sometimes I don't believe in myself. So I really appreciate that.
Well, it's going to be a very exciting match tomorrow, and we're all looking forward to it, Wesley. And yesterday, when Magnus was asked who he'd like to play in the final, he did mention your name. So I guess as he really wants to challenge himself with the best. Have you got any thoughts on that at all?
Well, I guess he beat Nodirbek already quite convincingly, and he didn't want to play the same one, but I mean, it's fascinating. I've always enjoyed watching Magnus Carlsen's games, so it's a big honor for me to play against him. I've been studying his games over the last few years, and you can always learn something new from any of his games. But again, I think, you know, if you lose like 10 matches against Magnus in a row, at some point you gotta have a win.
Wesley, it's going to be a fantastic grand final, and we're so excited about the matchup tomorrow. Congratulations for a phenomenal day of chess, winning 2 matches, and we look forward to the action between you and Magnus tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just very fortunate to still be at this stage. And you know, also big congratulations to my opponents today, for Eduardo for playing so well, also for Nodirbek, again, playing bishop b5 on the second move is just shows full of courage.
Absolutely. Wesley, thank you so much for joining us. All the best for tomorrow.
Thank you, Tanya.
Wesley so there with some really nice words for his opponent. He's got to be one of the nicest guys on the circuit.
He's just so sweet, and he's kind, and he always goes out of his way to just thank people, and that's really who he is. He's humble, and at times I think Wesley's problem, as I've talked to him about and many people have, is confidence. It's the other way, right? The fact that he is so humble and so kind, I think, keeps him in that mindset. At times, it's the confidence that he really needs.
Yeah, the thing is, you can't poke the bear. If you wake Wesley up and it looks like he's woken up now, then he's one of the most dangerous customers out there. Face of an angel, but on the chessboard, he's a killer.
There's a lot we've got to talk about and discuss ahead of this grand final, and we'll do just that in just a few moments.
The most elite bullet tournament returns. You don't want to miss the 4th ever Bullet Chess Championship featuring Magnus Carlsen for the first time. He'll join reigning champ Hikaru Nakamura, 2021 champion Alireza Firouzja, and more to fight for their share of the $100,000 prize fund. It all kicks off on July 17th at 9 a.m. Pacific. Use !BCC in chat for all the details.
Next Monday, July 17th, the Bullet Chess Championship begins, where 16 of the world's greatest speed chess players will contend for the Bullet Chess crown. Will Hikaru defend his reign? Will Firouzja block his path and take back the title he held just 2 years ago? And will Magnus' BCC debut shake up the field entirely? Submit your Bullet Chess Championship bracket now for a chance to win 6 months of Diamond membership. Use Comment Fantasy in the chat. Bracket submission close on July 17th when Game 1 of the BCC kicks off.
Want to improve your game? Click the link in the Chess.com navigation bar to try Aimchess today and increase your rating 31% faster than standard tactics puzzles. When you sign up for Aimchess, our powerful AI breaks down your latest games and provides actionable insights to immediately improve your game. You will also receive personalized lessons created from your game history to help you learn from your mistakes and a custom-made study plan to help you reach your goals. Learn chess your way with Aimchess, your digital chess coach.
Get stronger, faster with Aimchess analytics and lessons. And you get your first month free with the code CCT at go.chess.com/Aimchess. It's been an exciting day of chess here in the elimination bracket. We've had so much fun. And Danny, rumor has it that you've been having a lot of fun in Oslo.
We've been maybe having too much fun in Oslo. I love Oslo, and the weather's been beautiful. We've gotten a lot of time outside, and we got to catch up with a bunch of fans of Magnus Carlsen and of chess in general in Oslo on a beautiful Saturday right after arriving, and there's some of the stuff we got into. Do you know who Magnus Carlsen is?
Yes.
Who is Magnus?
A chess player.
I think he's a champion.
Yeah, he's a world champion. Do you know who Magnus Carlsen is?
Yes, I met him.
You met Magnus?
I met him.
I also met
there.
Magnus. And who's the greatest chess player of all time?
Magnus Carlsen.
Magnus Carlsen.
Magnus Carlsen, right? You know who Magnus Carlsen is?
Of course.
You know that she's met Magnus Carlsen.
I met him.
Are you?
Yeah.
Nice.
He was the world chess champion, and I am wearing his shoes.
Are you Magnus Carlsen?
I am Magnus Carlsen. I'm not Magnus.
I mean, I wish you were.
I know. I wish I was too. Hey, sir, do you like my shoes?
I think they're awesome.
First of all, how sexy are these shoes?
Let's go from 1 to 10.
Yeah, 1 to 10.
I would say 8.6.
Okay.
Yeah. I like this goldish color. That's what I saw.
Can you guess by looking at them whose shoes they are?
Some chess guy.
Some chess guy. When you look at these shoes, these are Magnus Carlsen's shoes.
Ah, okay. So therefore they are the best.
Therefore they are the best. That's right. Who's the greatest chess player of all time?
It's Magnus Carlsen.
It's Magnus Carlsen, right? What if I told you I took these shoes right off his feet?
Oh, you did?
Yeah. What would you do?
Is it real?
I would take a look. Get close. These are Magnus Carlsen limited edition Clyde suede shoes from Puma. Would you take shoes off of Magnus Carlsen's feet if you could get away with it?
No.
Oh, okay, come on. Thank you for your time, Oslo, Norway. We love you. That was a lot of fun. There's actually even more content coming, but it was great to see a lot of people when you're wearing Magnus Carlsen shoes around here, they just accept you as one of their own. They don't look at you as an awkward American on the street. So that was fun.
It's strange. I mean, like everyone in Norway, in Oslo, seems to know Magnus Carlsen, right? It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it's so popular here at chess. I mean, you talk to anyone who's Magnus Carlsen, even that woman there, she's like, I've met Magnus. I know Magnus. It's crazy, yeah?
Some people even knew David, although that content, I might be teasing that for tomorrow. So we'll see what people thought David did when we talk to them.
Not as many people knew me. I can reveal that now.
Humbled there by David, but Magnus Carlsen, he's of course the big star here in Norway. And while we know it's going to be Wesley So taking on Magnus in that Division 1 Grand Final, Ketty, we also know our finalists in Division 2.
That's right. It is Denis Lazovic, 17 years old, who won the Armageddon with black pieces. He chose 10 minutes, but he totally outplayed his opponent, Sam Savian. Tomorrow, he will face Jose Martinez, who had himself a great day. He won 2 matches. First match against Kamsky, second match against Hakobian. And he is ready to fight for the ticket to the Division 1. One of these 2 players, either Denis or Jose, will get this ticket and $10,000.
There is so much on the line for these 2 players fighting it out in the grand final. Dan Laz versus Jose Martinez. One of them will qualify for Division 1 of the next Champions Chess Tour event. A huge payday with $10K on the line and the tour points. Ketty, it's going to be a big day of exciting chess throughout the divisions. And what do you have for us in Division 3?
In Division 3, we have very interesting situation because we have 2 Vietnamese grandmasters tomorrow fighting against each other. Minh Le and Li Liam gonna fight it out, and one of these 2 players will face Yu Yangyi in the grand finals, and we're gonna know who will be the player who will win $5,000.
Yu Yangyi is waiting for that grand final. It's going to be a big fight tomorrow. It is the final day of the Aimchess Rapid. Let's take a look at our bracket going into that big grand final there. Wesley So has to beat Magnus Carlsen twice. That is a big psychological battle. Apart from being a battle on the board, how does Wesley get by? What does he need to do tomorrow, David?
Well, Wesley has done it before, and often that does involve hitting Magnus in the opening, catching him unawares, and it's not going to be easy, as you say, Tanya, but I think in this first 4-game match, he needs to strike early. Magnus often holds the lead. Once he gets there, you can't take it back. So it's the first game or 2 where I think it will be critical.
Yeah, it's going to be really tough, though. I mean, you've got to win not once, but twice. because Magnus has won all of his matches so far. But he does have a chance. He's done it before, and he's just got to play at his normal standard, his standard today, and see what happens.
I think you made a great point, David, that you have to strike early against Magnus, or at least not lose early, right? And I think that actually plays doubly on the players we have here. One, because Magnus is so good at protecting his lead. We've seen him do it. And also, I think Wesley So, on form, as I said, is a confident Wesley So. And if his confidence gets shaken, things might fall apart, right? So I think for Wesley, not losing is critical.
It's going to be a fantastic day of chess, and we've had such incredible storylines. Right now, it is about can Wesley So take down Magnus Carlsen twice, but also Eduardo Iturrizaga. What a moment this has been for him. What a platform Aimchess Rapid has been for him.
I admit, I'm super excited to see Wesley in the grand final, and it was kind of the matchup I was thinking would happen, given the form we were watching with Wesley. But I'm upset that Eduardo didn't make the final of the losers bracket, because it means he doesn't have a guaranteed spot into Division 1 next time. So we're not going to have him here there. But shout out to Eduardo. Vamos, Eduardo, and we'll see you again.
Vamos, Eduardo, and he has won so many hearts. And as you said, Danny, he will be fighting in the play-ins for the next event. So he's looking for that spot as well. And we've got some great news. We've got a winner from our Air Things contest there, and that is the winning answer. King to F5 wins, because the knight or king cannot hold Harry. Both David and Simon with a big smile there, and nothing to see here, wins this very cool Air Things Wave Plus device with Magnus's signature. It's the one that David and Magnus had on with them. Congratulations, well done, Simon. Harry the H-pawn, he said.
It's good to see that Harry's getting the accolades that he justly deserves. Yeah, good old Harry.
Good old Harry, and we've got good old Magnus tomorrow taking on Wesley So. That is a grand final you don't want to miss. We'll be back with all the action. We'll see you then.
Wow.
Oh, they can't be
mind games. Mind games from Wesley.
Wesley So beats Eduardo Iturrizaga, goes on to the losers final. Oh, and Wesley doesn't stop reacting.
He's laughing.
He's laughing. He can't believe this move. Wesley So does it for the second time today. He books his spot into the Aimchess Rapid Grand Final against Magnus Carlsen. Thank you.